Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Good evening or good afternoon to everyone viewing this episode of Beyond the Surface. I'm excited to chair this particular conversation between a Muslim, a Jew. I'm going by the title because Joseph had a bit of a, what's it called? A clarification from his side, right? So a Karaite, a Jew, and a Muslim. So as I said prior to coming on live to Joseph and Israel, this is going to be professional, maintaining respect and cordial, discussion. And I'm sure, obviously, Joseph and Israel, being from their respective backgrounds, will have, a to and fro. Obviously, I'll have a to and fro with Joseph. I'm sure with Israel as well. But the main sort of conversation will be obviously just engaging. It will be heated. I'm sure there will be conversations that would have an engaging back and forth, but as I said, respectable and making sure that obviously no one is crossing boundaries. So first of all, to my guests, Israel and Joseph, welcome to this particular episode.
Assalamu alaikum.
Thank you.
Welcome to all of you. So we'll start off, and as I said before, I think how it happened, and just give a context, Joseph, you can add your input into this. So there was a video that you recorded regarding a passage in the Talmud regarding Yeshua or Jesus or Isa. And you made a video on your channel. I don't know how long ago it was. I think it was about a year ago or so, right?
Probably, yeah.
Probably, yeah. So I had a conversation with Israel. Obviously, we got in touch and obviously had a fruitful conversation on the Beyond the Surface episode. And then I recorded a video, which I tagged you in. And then you contacted me and said, look, Hajji, you made a video. Would you like to engage? And I said, yeah, why not? Let's have an engaging discussion. And then obviously Israel was also interested, and this is how this has transpired, and we're here today. So introduction, Joseph, would you like to introduce yourself? And then we'll obviously let Israel introduce himself, and then we'll get started.
Okay, assalamu alaikum. My name's Joseph, born in the UK, fled the UK, probably the first Jewish, or one of several Jewish refugees from the UK because of the increasing threat that my community is under. So I fled to Israel, to a war zone where I feel much safer. Alhamdulillah. And so, yeah, I've made a video responding to Daniel Hakikachu. And I think these verses from the Talmud about Jesus, which they're not about Jesus, get thrown around Muslim Twitter, get thrown around neo-Nazi Twitter, and they're massively misrepresented. I think Israel kind of did his people a disservice. I say his people because even though he rejects the Bavli, he's still one of us. I mean, it's in the name. And so I thought he did us a disservice by just throwing the Jews that follow the Talmud under the bus. I get that he doesn't rate the Bavli, but I think words have incredible power in the age of the internet. And if our texts are getting twisted out of context, like the Quran and the Hadith often do, it can leave my people in a precarious situation. So I wanted to at least have a friendly conversation to see if we can find some common ground, see if you did misspeak or if you stand by what you said. And these are verses about Jesus, Isa, Yeshua, Yeshu.
Thank you for that. So Israel, the floor is all yours, my brother.
Thank you. So nice to meet you, Joseph. I've seen your videos for a couple of years now. Like Bro mentioned on Speaker's Corner, saw you debating people, so it's cool to meet you. Regarding your comments saying that the Talmud Bavli, the Babylonian Talmud, is not referring to Jesus of Nazareth, I think that that's not true. It's pretty obvious that the Bible is referring to Jesus of Nazareth just based off of the descriptors and the name. I mean, it's kind of in the name. I'm sure you'll mention the fact that the chronology seems to be a bit off, but it should be mentioned that at times the Talmud does mess with the chronology, either deliberately or because it's speaking in somewhat narrative terms and not focus so much on the chronology. But it's pretty clear that it's referring to Jesus of Nazareth. And with regards to your comments about me throwing my people under the bus, I would just say I don't think my people benefit from covering up the truth. I think my people benefit from standing in the light of the truth. And if these are the things that they said, it would be much more powerful to me to admit that and then point to the Torah as the ultimate source of authority that we're all bound by. I don't think that the Talmud represents the word of God. I think it represents rabbis' opinions, and I think it's perfectly fine for Jewish people to say, yeah, those rabbis' opinions are wrong, even if they were written in a book 2,000 years ago. So that being said, I stand by my statement. Yes.
Cool. Should we just jump straight into it? And bro,
Yeah,
Hajji,
you guys,
it's your platform. I didn't know who I was debating with. I'm debating
no,
you.
you'll ask questions to me.
Okay.
So what I'll do is I'll just sort of make a disclaimer. So obviously the initial, that's why I mentioned the introduction first, because that's how we reached out. So eventually you're going to ask me questions, no problem. It will be an engaging Muslim-Jewish discussion, in polemics. But I want you to obviously, as I'm being the neutral party here, the Muslim, who protected the Jews during the Khilafah, even though we took the jizya, no problem, we don't mind. But let you two obviously have your discussion, because I'm interested as well. And then Israel knows I'm learning Hebrew as well as we speak. So I'm reading the Talmud. I'm on the Nikud now. So I want you to engage. So I'm learning as we speak. So Joseph,
are you okay with me sharing my screen, because it's going to be much easier to talk around?
Yeah. You've got the access. Yeah. You've got the access. Go for it.
Okay, cool. Okay, so let's see if this works. Allowed to share window. Allowed to share screen. Okay, share this window. Let's see if this works. Present. Let's see. Sorry, I'm just trying to.
Yeah, take your time. If not, I'll go into the settings and I'll. Okay. Any negative comments? I'm just gonna add a disclaimer. I could see some comments that are very, very disrespectful. So I'm gonna block anyone or ban anyone that makes such a comment. Okay. So I don't know whether you can see it, both of you, but anyone that uses profanity will be banned. Okay. So we're not gonna tolerate that.
No worries. I would also just point out, as well as with regards to this concept of, not calling out your own people, because I know, Joseph, you are dedicated to defending the Jewish people, almost like no matter what they do. I like to follow this principle in Leviticus 19:15. It says, "Do not do any unrighteousness in judgment. Do not favor the face of the poor person or glorify the face of the rich person. Judge with righteousness your fellow." So, I think that even if you can say that Israel is in a position of a victim based off of the geographical location they occupy, obviously even that statement is debated. But no matter what status or even if they're being pursued right now, which I'm aware of, say the anti-Semitism going on, but we have to stick to the truth. And I think that the truth is, this is what the rabbis believed about Jesus. This is true that even the term Yeshu, which refers to the Hebrew name for Jesus, the traditionally and historically Jews have abbreviated to say Yamach Shemo v'Zichro, which means erase his name and his memory, right? And so this is, the Jews clearly don't have a favorable view of Jesus. I think that should be abundantly obvious. And that I guess would be me and Bro's point. Even though Bro is a Muslim and I'm a Karaite, we're not Christian. We don't believe in the Trinity or that Jesus is God, or we don't worship Jesus. But at the same time, I think it's undeniable that Jesus was a great character. We don't know everything that he said or everything about him, considering that he didn't write anything, and the New Testament was written by disciples that didn't even know him, who had a vested interest in creating a religion around him. But at the same time, it's undeniable that the character of Jesus was fundamentally good, and he was killed unjustly. And I think that his death and his life has been a huge moving piece in history, if not one of the biggest, to bring the Bible to the rest of the world. So, this is clearly a significant character. I don't think we should say the things that the Talmud says about him.
Cool. Okay, we'll get into all of that, because I don't think the Talmud says other things about him. It's not letting me bring my screen up.
Okay.
Do you know how?
Hold on, let me go into.
I could see it there, so it should pop up.
Let me see if it allows. Yeah, it says guests can stream to this John guest. Allow guests.
I know, but I think you just need to bring it up. It's in the lobby kind of.
Oh, sorry. Okay, sorry. Apologies. Okay, is it the one with the Jesus photo? Is that the one?
That's the one.
Okay, I'll put
the photo. Yeah, they had a Polaroid which they used.
That there?
Yeah. So I tried to find the blondest Jesus I could. So okay, just to begin with, just to find some common ground, Quran, Islam says very little details about Jesus. So we're largely going to have to go from the New Testament to get any detail in terms of dating him, etc. Are we all in agreement with that? Is that a fair place to go? Yeah. Okay, cool. So I put his birth between the 6th to the 4th before the Common Era, and then his crucifixion. I've deliberately not said death out of respect for you, bro Hajji, because I know you guys don't think that Isa died. But the 30 to 33 Common Era. And we can date that from Herod. We can date that from Tiberius Caesar. We can date that from Pontius Pilate, when he was the prefect of Judea, not Palestine, interestingly, Judea, to try and arrive at which period did this man, the man of the New Testament, the Isa of the Quran, when did he live? Would we all agree that this is largely the right ballpark? Are we in agreement here?
Yes.
Perfect. So let's just jump straight into some of the text then. So Sanhedrin 107, we can skip this one because it goes into it and a little bit more. So apologies, it's a bit dry, but I've highlighted the bits to pay attention to. So when Yanai, the king, was killing the sages, the rabbis, Joshua ben Parachia and Yeshu, it's interesting, we'll get into who Yeshu is and how we arrive at the different names, went to Alexandria of Egypt. When there was peace, Shimon ben Shetak sent to him, "From me, Jerusalem, the holy city, to you, Alexandria of Egypt, my sister, my husband dwells within you, and I sit desolate." So he's basically calling for Joshua to come back. He arose, came back, and a certain inn happened to be available. They showed him great honor. He said, "How beautiful is this inn, Aksanya?" Yeshu said to him, "My teacher, her eyes are narrow." So the word inn can mean inn or innkeeper, female innkeeper. And so whoever this Yeshu character is, he's commenting on how this person looks, the innkeeper looks. And so he's rebuked and he's excommunicated. He brought out 400 shofars and ostracized him. Yeshu came before him many times saying, "Accept me," but he did not pay attention to him. One day, Joshua ben Parachia was reciting Shema. Yeshu came before him. He intended to accept him and he signaled him with his hand, but he thought he was pushing me away. He went, stood up a brick and bowed down to it. So whoever the person in this text is worshipping a brick. And there's two different instances where this verse appears. In the Bavli, at one time he worships, the other time he bows down. Joshua ben Parachia said to him, "Repent." He said to him, "This I receive from you. Whoever sins and causes the many to sin is not given the opportunity to repent." And the master said, Yeshu practiced sorcery, incited, and led Israel astray. Why did I go for all that text? You'll see in a minute. Because from that we can date the person in this text. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to take us through each of the different quotations from the Bavli, from the Talmud, where it mentions this person and or people that we've come to call Yeshu. So this one, the person here died no later than 100 CE. Sorry, this event happened no later than 100 CE. BCE, that should be. How do we know this? Because Joshua ben Parachia died 100 BCE. Shimon ben Shetak died 60 BCE. Yanai died 76 BCE. He was one of the kings of Israel. And so in the New Testament, as we said before, Jesus lived 6 to 33. So already 100 years. Whoever this person is, they're 100 years. And we're going to get into it. His sins were idolatry. Nobody in your text accuses Jesus of idolatry. Nowhere in any text is it recorded that Jesus of the New Testament worshipped a brick. My understanding is he worshipped Avinu Malkeinu, our Father, our King, God. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So this person was excommunicated. As far as I'm aware in the New Testament and in the Quran, Jesus is never excommunicated. And he's punished for sorcery, inciting, leading Israel astray, rebelling against the rabbis, and leading the masses away. And the New Testament, it's blasphemy, messianism, kingship, but nothing to do with sorcery or leading Israel astray. So far, would we agree that the person in that text, Israel, I understand that you said sometimes get the chronology mixed up, But whoever we're talking about here, the characters in the story predate Jesus. Would we agree to that at the very least? The text.
Chronologically, yeah, according to this this chronology, Yeshua ben Prachia lived 100 years before Jesus. So I understand that argument. At the same time, again, as I pointed out, the rabbis say that Moses projected himself into the future and saw Rabbi Akiva and said, if only Rabbi Akiva was the one who gave the Torah instead of me, because he can give an exposition and expound on each crown of every letter of the Torah, even though that it was quite literally a different form of Hebrew, because Paleo Hebrew, in which the original Torah was written, is different from the Assyrian Hebrew of Rabbi Akiva, where there were no crowns. So the Talmud clearly doesn't do very well with chronology and all these things. And again, you have to look at the the strange coinciding points here. It says that he was killed. This is Sanhedrin 43a. He was killed on the eve of Passover. Yeshu HaNotzri, Jesus of Nazareth, was killed on Passover Eve. And then Gittin 57, 1 second, then Gittin 57a says Jesus of Nazareth is burning in excrement in hell because he went against the rabbis. By the way, what you said is incorrect. Jesus in the New Testament was performing miracles and healing people, and the Pharisees came and said, you are performing witchcraft. So even within the New Testament, they're saying, you're acting for the devil, you're working for dark forces, right? This is in the New Testament, and it's abundantly clear that the rabbis thought Jesus was a heretic for going against them, their authority, and they killed him, and they were the ones instrumental in killing him. I'm sure they excommunicated him. That kind of goes without saying.
So let's share the text that you just mentioned with the audience so they can see the text themselves. So one thing is probably worth touching on before I jump into this is the actual Talmud itself. And so Israel and I probably have a good understanding of what the Talmud is. Many of the people watching won't. Me and Israel may or may not agree on what it is. But effectively in Judaism, there is the written law, the Torah, and then you have the oral law. Now, the oral law is contained and organized in the Mishnah. It was written down around 200 CE by Yehuda Hanassi, Judah the Prince. Again, Yehuda. His name keeps on popping up. And so it was written down around 200 CE. And it organized the oral law. Now, the oral law is a combination of laws that were given to Moses at Sinai, and then laws that were introduced by man using agreed principles. So we have Gezerot, Takanot. These are different forms of laws that man can introduce, because Judaism is a civilizational religion. It's not just a set of beliefs. The Supreme Court, the Bet Din Hagadol, used to sit in Jerusalem at the gates of the temple on Har HaBayit, where Masjid Al-Aqsa is today, interestingly. And from there, the Bet Din would rule for all of Klal Yisrael, for all of the Jewish people. Now, Israel rejects their authority. But if I understand you correctly, Israel, I hope I'm not.
Well, yeah. You just conflated two terms, which is were these laws from Moses or were they the rulings of the high court?
So it's a combination of both. So you have things like the measurements of a sukkah. What is a sukkah? There are certain laws which we believe, we have a Mesorah, a tradition, that they were given. The first court is Moses and the 70 elders. Then the next court is Yehoshua, which is where the name Yeshua actually comes from. It's a derivative of Jesus. It's Yeshua, Yeshu. These all flow from the Yeshua, who is in Islam Yusha bin Nun, who is along with Caleb, the leader of the Jewish people who leads them into the land. So he has the second court. And then there's a series of courts all the way down to the Kalot, which is the assemblies of Ravashi and Ravina, which is maybe 100 to 200 years before Muhammad is born. So 500 to 550 CE. That's when the Talmud is rejected. Sorry, I've skipped a step. So Rabbi Singer is a dear friend of mine, and he can say what he likes, and I can say what I like.
You're free. Say what you want.
And so the Mishnah, from the point of Yehuda Hanassi, which is 200 CE, going all the way back to the Moses, There's laws that are introduced. There's wisdom, which is codified. And until Yehuda, it's given from teacher to student in the same way that you have isnad in the hadith. And then at the time of Yehuda, he goes to all of the different, he looks at all the different chains of narration, redacts the Mishnah, and then the Gemara, which is a commentary on that Mishnah, including some traditions that were still left floating around that hadn't been brought into the law. That hadn't been codified in the text. That's then codified around 500 to 600 CE. And that together is called the Talmud. And so we're reading a sheet from the Talmud now. So isn't it taught in a Breita? So the Breita is one of those traditions that Yehuda Hanassi didn't codify. So it goes back to the same period, but it's written down a few centuries later. On the eve, and here's where it becomes interesting with the Talmud, we don't have a manuscript that goes back to the time of Yehuda Hanassi for the Mishnah, and we don't have a manuscript that goes back to the time of Rav Ashi and Ravina for the Bavli, for the Talmud. In fact, the earliest complete one we have is probably the Munich 95 Talmud, which is 1346. So you're already centuries and centuries later. We have fragments, we have tractates, but we don't have the whole thing. The whole Talmud is huge. It's 2 million words. It's a massive body of text. And what we do when we're looking at the manuscripts and trying to understand what's called the Girsa, the correct text, we look at all the older manuscripts and we can see. So what's interesting here, it says, but isn't it taught in a Breita on the eve of Shabbat? So the Florence manuscript is one of the oldest manuscripts we have, and that's from the 1200s. And there it introduces Shabbat, which is not the case for Christianity, but that's not a common reading. That's just a reading that we have. And the eve of Passover. Now, my understanding is Jesus is killed on Passover, not the eve of Passover, Erev Passover. They hung Yeshu, and now here's where it becomes really, I'll just skip ahead a little bit so you can see, and then go back. The text is heavily censored because Christians back then, they weren't too nice to the Jews. And many people, for many centuries, have read Jesus into these texts. And so this is the Munich 95. So this is 1346, Common Era. And you can see where the text has been scratched out to avoid the Jews being persecuted. I'll take you through what that text says in a minute. But when you read the text, it clearly is not Jesus of the New Testament or Isa of the Quran. So we have multiple names here. We have Yeshu. We have it completely censored, so we don't know. Yeshu Hanatzri, Yeshua Hanatzri, Yeshu Hanotzri. Various different names have been put in place by scribes over many centuries. And because the Talmud was never meant to be written down, it's an oral law. It was supposed to be told. It's supposed to have that flexibility. It's not like the Hadith or the Quran or the Torah, which is a text which was locked. This was supposed to be given from teacher to student orally. And the crier went out before him for 40 days proclaiming Yeshu Hanotzri is going to be stoned because he practiced sorcery, incited people and led the Jewish people astray. Anyone who knows a reason to acquit him should come and teach it on his behalf. And they did not find a reason to acquit him. And they hung him on the eve of Shabbat, on the eve of Shabbat and Passover Eve. So what they're saying here is he was stoned to death and then his corpse was hung up. Now, this was done by the Sanhedrin, the Beit Din, not by the Romans. But we know that from the process, the ceremonies that are described. Allah said, and you understand, was Yeshu worthy of a search to acquit him? He was an inciter, and the merciful one states, neither shall you spare, neither shall you conceal him. Rather, Yeshu was different as he was close with the government. He was close with the government. It was taught in a Breita, Yeshu had 5 disciples, Matai, Nakai, Netzer, Buni, and Todah. Not 12, not Luke, not... completely different people. And so I'm just showing you different texts. So you've got a Yemenite manuscript on the right hand side where it says Yeshua Hanatzri. You've got different variations of the text, but just to summarize, just this one this one extract from the Talmud. So the latest this could have been was AD BCE, because Yeshua ben Parachia died 100 BCE. The New Testament, again, we're out of sync. 15th of Nisan verse 14th of Nisan. Friday or Saturday, Friday. Stoning, crucifixion. Hung, placed in a tomb. 5 disciples, 12 disciples. Friendly with the government, not friendly with the government. Sorcery, inciting, leading Israel astray. And you push back a little bit there, Israel, so we don't have to go over that. But it's clearly... and sorry, who sentenced him? Sanhedrin, the Romans. What happened to his disciples? It goes on in the Bavli, I cut it out, to say how each of those disciples met their fate. They were all executed. As far as I understand, and I know very little about Christianity, only James is killed in the Christian narrative, and I don't know if anyone's killed in the Islamic narrative because Easter escapes. So from the text, you can keep saying that the chronology, you can put, but it's not just as the chronology wrong, but the details are wrong.
1 second. If he was killed on the eve of Passover, which happened to be Friday evening, why would you say that's the same exact time? Friday evening is not
Friday
Saturday,
or Saturday. So
was he killed on he was killed on Friday evening.
Shishi, is it the 6th day or the 7th day? It's one of the two. That you're doing dates like a Christian, like an Englishman. We do dates from nightfall to nightfall.
The Torah literally says, bring the Passover offering on the 14th
on the daytime.
On the 14th in the evening, right? So the evening, it says to keep Yom Kippur from the 9th in the evening, right? So even though if you keep it in the eve of, it's still, even in the Torah, called the evening of that day, right?
But it's a different day. It's not the 6th day or the 7th day. They're different days, yes? Yeah. I see what you're saying. I see what you're saying. You're saying Erev is in the nighttime, Friday. Yeah.
Yes, it's Friday evening is the same as Friday evening. That's the same exact time.
But even with that, you then have a duality because we have both Saturday and Friday as days put forward for this. So you.
But I mean, with all the heavily. Also, why are these things so heavily redacted if there's nothing to hide?
Oh, bro! I mean, you must. How many conspiracy theories exist today about the Jewish people that aren't true?
But isn't this so bizarre that it's like the exact same story with the exact same names? Like, yeah, obviously the disciples they got wrong.
They're not the same names. They're not the same. Again, and how would they get them wrong? This. I mean,
they get everything wrong. But Jesus of Nazareth being killed on Passover evening, the eve of Passover.
What's Israel? With all due respect, what's the biggest thing that everybody knows about Isa, Jesus, from a Christian perspective, which would have been the dominant narrative at that time? He was crucified. Mm-hmm. This is like you'd have to be an absolute moron to get that detail wrong.
Right. Again, I don't.
And
think
then to fumble how many disciples there are, and to fumble the names.
I think the Talmud but the Talmud is deliberately trying to create a counter narrative, right? Like they have books about Jesus saying that this Jesus character, he was the opposite of what Christians say he was. He wasn't the Son of God. He was.
Are you talking about the medieval work, the generations?
Yeah, I'm saying.
Yeah, that's like century. So yeah, I would concede. I would concede
my point is
that
they're inverting the narrative. I'm not surprised that they would get details wrong, or that they would try to say that we're the ones who did it and not the Romans. The reality is the Jews didn't even have much power, right? Definitely at the time of the Romans. And they could be placing this in a different time period. I'm just saying, don't you think the coincidence is just a little too strong? Jesus
what's
Nazareth,
the coincidence? What is the coincidence with this story
there was two Jesus of Nazareths who lived 100 years apart from each other. They were both going against the rabbis. They both had the same name.
In most of the texts, in most of the Gezot we have, it says Yeshu, or it's censored. It doesn't say Yeshu Notzri. Yeah,
but it's censored. That's the whole point. Is that they had to censor it because they.
But
knew
it's censored because,
about.
you were a religious rabbinic Jew at some point, yes?
Yeah. And
even you believe that this is about Jesus. What I believe has happened here, and we'll get into it in a minute, is Christianity became the dominant religion of the world, the biggest religion of the world, and Judaism is basically silent on Christianity at the time. The characters we're reading about here clearly are not the Jesus of the New Testament. They're somebody different. You can say they've got a similar name and there's certain details which are similar, but people are trying to, you know, that it was at the Ali. Anyway, I'm not going to diss on Ali Dawah while he's not here. It was the dominant religion of that time, and for the last 2,000 years, or at least last 1,600 years, 1,700 years, everybody has been aware of it, and Judaism was silent. I think medieval rabbis, scribes, have read into it. And if you go to Sefaria today, you'll read Yeshua Notzri. You'll read Yeshua, whether it said Yeshua Notzri originally, whether it said Yeshu, whether it said Yeshua. So, for instance, in the I got it here. This is the manuscript on the right is Yad Rav Herzog, which is a Yemeni manuscript from the 1500s. So it's old, but not the oldest. But the Gersa, the text he has, seems to be closest to
but that's even crazier, because if you say that's a Yemenite manuscript, the Yemenites are completely disconnected from like the whole Christian West, and they probably had some of the oldest manuscripts.
I know by 1500s with the least, off. I mean, Rambam visits.
I'm sorry, but definitely
into them in detail.
With the least desire to alter the for someone living in Spain, I get why they'd want to alter the text, but for someone living in Yemen, to keep the text, that would make sense. That
there's no argument for you, but by the 1500s, Christianity is a huge religion. So what I was going to do, I was going to lean into what you're saying. I mean, it wasn't the dominant religion in Yemen, but it had been dominant in Yemen at different points. Like, Yemenis were very aware of Christianity at this point, 1500s. It is a global religion which Judaism is trying to compete with. And so the fact that a scribe, and what I was trying to say, I was trying to be charitable. I was trying to say, I believe there are scribes that have written the Talmud, the Bavli, who believe that Yeshua HaNotzri was probably Jesus of Nazareth. I don't think this was a fringe position. It's why somebody like Rabbi Singer, who I have tremendous respect for, he believes that at least some of the texts may be talking about, I don't want to put words into his mouth, but some of the texts are talking about the Jesus character. And you can log into X and see countless rabbis using these texts to attack Christianity. I'm not interested in rabbis. I'm interested in what you said before, the truth. And are these texts talking about Jesus of the New Testament? And none of the details line up. No, like some of them do, which is why
I wouldn't say none, but can I point to two other things? Because you laughed, first of all, when it said he was practicing sorcery, because no one ever accused him of that. Matthew 12:24. But when the Pharisees heard this, they said, it is only Beelzebub, who is the king of the prince of the demons, that this fellow drives out demons. So he's using like demonic power to drive out demons, is what the Pharisees accused him of. And then when it says that he was close to the government, right, it explicitly says in the New Testament that Pontius Pilate, the Roman general leader of Jerusalem, did not want to kill Jesus. And he said,
but that doesn't mean he's close. That does not mean he's close.
Yes, but again, the point is that the leadership did not want to kill him, and so they had to come up with ways to actually get this to happen. Right.
According to the text here we've just read.
For the source, it's John 8:18, and throughout the New Testament.
Okay. All I was going to say is, according to this text, it's not that they were lenient or looking favorably on him in his hearing. It's that his crime was being close to the government. And in Jewish terms, that would mean collaborating with people who are very, very oppressive and persecute you.
Well, so that's an interpretation. That's an interpretation, because I just saw an interpretation saying he was close to the government. That's why they had to go out. Because what the Talmud says is, why did they even go out calling for 40 days to see if they could save him? If he's an idolater and a sorcerer, you should just kill him right away. And so they said it's because he was close to the government, and the government was looking for ways to acquit him, that they had to go and find, give him a proper trial. Is pretty much the way that you can understand that.
We're saying the same thing. He's close to the government, and they're wanting to acquit him.
Yes, but the crime was not that he was close to the government, but rather because he was close to the government, it was difficult for them to be able to just put him to death right away, right? And again, regarding the hanging, crucifixion is a form of hanging. You're not hanging by the neck.
No, but he was stoned to death. He was stoned.
No. It says that they hung him on the eve of Passover, but they were going to go out trying to stone him, but they ended up hanging him. That's what it says, right? It says that he was hung.
No. So what? It's the the ceremony that you go through, you execute the person, then you display the corpse. You saw it medieval times. You saw it all. Someone would be executed and their body would be hung, so that the people could see the gravity of sinning as a deterrent, so people wouldn't sin.
Well, that's also a rabbinic idea that you hang someone after they're stoned. But even then,
that's
again,
fine. But we agree that it's a rabbinic idea, and
yeah, but we also agree
Christian narrative.
Yes, but this is the rabbi's spin on the narrative. I'm not going to expect this to be the same at all. I'm going to expect them to change details. I'm going to expect them to do this. It's just a little strange that there happens to be this identical figure who's accused of the identical things.
He's not identical. He's not identical.
Okay.
We've got multiple names for him. We've got major details.
We have one name for him, and sometimes they leave out the Nazarene part, which clearly
Yeshua.
But to this day, that's still Yeshua is the Nazarene way of saying Yeshua, and ultimately,
what do you mean Yeshua is the Nazarene way of saying Yeshua?
Yeah, like in Nazareth, they wouldn't pronounce it Yeshua, at least according to what I've studied. In Nazareth, they would say Yeshu. That was how they pronounced Yeshua, but it's the same name. And again, the Notary part, the Nazarene part, was obviously edited out because the Jews were afraid of persecution from Christians. That's obvious. Now, why were they afraid? Why do they even have this story? Like, it's just so bizarre.
Because we preserved it.
Can I pull away for 1 second? Just 1 second, because you obviously admitted already that probably the vast majority of rabbis believe this is referring to Jesus of Nazareth. You have your own opinion about it, although
the vast majority don't. But there are rabbis throughout history that have. I definitely wouldn't say the vast majority believe this is Jesus. The vast majority of rabbis are completely indifferent.
The vast majority of rabbis were indifferent. Okay, so that's exactly where I'll push back, because you're trying to pretend that Judaism is indifferent to Jesus, or that Judaism doesn't have a negative view of Jesus, when that's clearly not true. No matter where you look at the conversation of Jesus, tell me one Orthodox rabbi, in all of from the time of the Mishnah till today, who has a favorable view of Jesus, or is even willing to give some olive branch to the actions of Jesus or what he did. It's very clear, even in the New Testament.
There's multiple rabbis that did, but it's a tangent.
Well, again, you can't deny that.
Rabbi Yaakov Ebden.
Okay, but you can't deny that the majority of Orthodox rabbis have a disfavorable view of Jesus.
No, they have an indifferent, is what I said. Indifferent. That's what I believe.
No, and I'm saying that's not true.
It's Christianity.
It's not indifferent. That's just not true. Like, there's literally rabbis running around today, including your dear friend Rabbi Singer, who's dedicated his life to pointing out that Christianity is idolatry and Jesus was an idolater, and they believe that Jesus was a sorcerer and an idolater. And within the New Testament, which you wanted to bring as a source,
I think
Jesus is going up against
people like Rabbi Singer isn't the character of Jesus; it's the taking Jesus and creating a Trinity, saying he's the Son of God, saying he's a prophet. These are things that rabbis will push back against, because that is against our tradition. The character of Jesus, which is what you're saying we're attacking, I disagree with.
Yeah, I mean, I think we can see attacks on that as well, but it's more so, I could criticize the character of Jesus as well. I would just say it's particularly when we get to the final story in the New Testament, where the Pharisees and the Jews are rallying around saying, kill Jesus and free the murderer, right? Do you believe that didn't happen?
I don't have any strong opinions on what the New Testament says. When I read the New Testament, and it's saying things like the blood of Jesus is on our hands, etc. Is that theory you're talking? Yeah.
Well, I don't think the blood of Jesus is on your hands or my hands.
So, but what I was going to say is, I read that Israel as a Jew. So how does your family, your parents, who do they blame for the destruction of the temple? Do they blame Rome, or do they blame the Jews? No, it's our fault the temple was destroyed. The Jewish response to trauma is to blame ourselves. So, of course, the Jewish followers of Jesus are going to say it's our fault, it's on us. It's a very Jewish response to a situation, is to take the blame on themselves. But I don't want this to be a whole Christian thing, because I'm not qualified to talk about Christianity. I'm not Christian. I literally want to focus in on what we came, which is the Bavli talking about Jesus of the New Testament? And I don't believe it is. I mean, this is one of the other ones which comes up so frequently. So it was taught in a Breita. Rabbi Eliezer said to the sages, And it is not that Ben Satada brought sorceries out of Egypt with a scratch upon his flesh, and is it not? So they're saying that this person, Ben Satada, so Ben means son of, like Ibn, has brought sorceries which he can't. They're talking about the laws of Shabbat. Can you write on Shabbat? And it's saying he scratched sorcery incantations, whatever, on his arm and took them out of Egypt. They said to him, he was a fool, and we do not bring proof from the fools. Ben Satada said, he is the son of Pandira. Rav Hizda said, the husband was Satada, but the lover, so who he had relations with, was Pandira. But was the husband not Papas Ben Yehuda? And this is the important part again, because we can place this person. Rather, his mother was Satada. But was his mother not Miriam, a platter of women's hair, so like a hairdresser? Rather, as they say in Pumbedita, which is one of the big academies where they learned Torah and they recorded our traditions. This one strayed from her husband, Statda. It's a play on words. It's a pun to say that she had an affair. But the important part here is Ben Papas. So Ben Papas was a contemporary of Rabbi Akiva. Rabbi Akiva was killed in 135 CE, so 100 years after Jesus. And the reason people say this is talking about Jesus is because their mother is called Miriam. Well, just like Yeshua is a common name, guess what? So is Miriam, so much so that how many Muslims are called Maryam to this day? How many Muslims are called Muhammad? Someone being called Muhammad, someone called Maryam, someone called Yeshua is not a strong proof. And so this, I completely reject the idea that this is talking about Jesus, because the only thing you have is that the woman is called Miriam.
Right. Yeah, I see your point. But again, there are later rabbinic books talking about the mythology of Jesus from the rabbinic perspective, where they say his mother was a whore. Maybe you can't find it in the Talmud, but they say his mother was a whore, and they say that he was a sorcerer, and the like. And again, I'll just say, the Jews, we just accept responsibility. One second, you said the Jews just said we accept responsibility for what we do wrong, but we didn't really do it. So like, again, who was behind the crucifixion of Jesus? Obviously, the Romans carried it out, but who was pushing for it? It was
the Romans were the global hegemony. The most they make America look pathetic. Mm-hmm. Like they conquered the entire known world at that point.
Yeah.
To imagine that a bunch of desert-dwelling Jews, and I don't mean to speak ill, because we're okay desert dwellers. We built some pretty fabulous palaces and the like, so Herod did. But to imagine that we're pulling the strings, we're literally ending another conspiracy. It's always the Jews. The Jews are controlling the Romans. The Jews are controlling America. The Jews.
No one's saying that like the Romans were like these wonderful people. But the reality is that the way it's described in the New Testament, and it's historically accurate to point this out, is that the governor of Jerusalem, who had all the Jews under his watch, is not about to deal with a rebellion because of this one guy. So to him, he doesn't care really to kill Jesus. He doesn't think he's guilty, but he's like, I'll kill him because I want to keep this rabble of Jews with not without them rebelling against it. Because even though you're right, the Roman Empire could crush a Jewish rebellion, it's still not something they really want to deal with, right? And so that's the explanation as to, like, he put it in their hands. He's like, all right, you want to know who you're killing? Are you killing Jesus? Or are you killing Barabbas, who's a murderer? And they say, Jesus, kill Jesus, right? And that's the way the story goes. And I think that's pretty plausible. And it's demonstrated in both the New Testament history, but also in the Jewish attitudes towards Jesus, where they genuinely believe that he was an idolater, blasphemer, who was deserving of death. So that would really explain how that all happens.
So again, I one of the things I've learned doing the line of work I'm in is not to delve into subjects I don't know enough about, and I truthfully don't know enough about the New Testament to say whether we did or we didn't according to the New Testament narrative, whether we were the ones that had the blood of Jesus on our hands. It doesn't make any sense for me that the Jews would be able to control Rome in the ways
it's not about control. I was not describing control. I was describing a practical situation where we're either going to have a rebellion because of this, or we're just going to give you the ability to choose who you want to kill. That's how it's portrayed. It's not portrayed as some behind the scenes control. It's a simple calculation made by a cold calculating Roman general who doesn't really care about either of these people. And he's like, well, in order not to have a rebellion, you decide who you want to kill. Right.
So Israel, I'm happy to concede this. It's not an area I know enough about to argue. So I'm happy to concede.
No, but the point that I'm trying to make
New Testament
is that,
narrative.
Yeah, according to the New Testament narrative, but according to the narrative that is this ancient rivalry between Jews and Christians, while Christians view Jesus as the highest individual possible, either under God or part of God, Jews believe Jesus as to be a really, really lowly character, potentially a bastard child, sorcerer, and there are Talmudic things to back that up. There are later medieval.
So
Jewish
where's is this the B child? Is this the verse you're basing the B child on?
No, I would say I see your point. How it's pretty vague, but again, I think there's this book called Toldot Yeshu, right?
Toldot Yeshu. It's just rejected. So in the medieval period, Christians were putting us through hell. They were ripping our flesh from our bodies, and so in underground circles, people started distributing material that was highly critical of the religion of the people that were persecuting us. That does not surprise me. But a medieval text is not a proof that the authors of the Bavli, which is what I care. I care about Chazal. I care about the sages that wrote the Bavli. I care about the Mesorah. I care about the tradition. And a medieval rabbi sitting in Germany 1,000 years later is of little consequence to the Jewish tradition. So yes, I can find you things that Rabbi Israel, somebody could quote you in 1,000 years and say this is what the Jews believe, that we reject the Bavli, etc. But you are an edge, it's a fringe, it's not representative, and what you believe or don't believe doesn't really impact the Jewish people in any meaningful way. And I don't mean that as a disrespect, it's the same with myself. But the Bavli, the authors of the Talmud, for Muslims that are watching, it's like the equivalent of throwing out Bukhari. It's the equivalent of throwing out Kitab al-Sitta, the 6 books of the Hadith. This is how important this is. We can't read the Torah without the Bavli. I know Israel would argue strongly that you can. We obviously agree to disagree on that. But that's who I'm defending. I'm not defending a book from medieval Europe. I'm defending the Talmud Bavli because it's central to the rabbinic Jewish faith.
Again, I'm curious, so what is your view on Jesus then? Do you not agree that he was a sorcerer? Do you agree that he existed? Do you think he's a fictional character?
The only reason I think he probably exists is because there's details which they include, like him being from Nazareth, etc., which it barely features in the Jewish world. You do not find it mentioned. So they have quite specific details, which lends me to believe there was somebody called Jesus, Isa, Yeshua.
Do you believe he was performing miracles?
No. Okay, so he was. I don't mean that's a disrespect.
No, so he was just a charismatic leader. And how did he die?
He was one of the boys that did well. He built up a big following. He was a Jewish teacher teaching. As I understood it, he studied under rabbinic Jews, the rabbis that you reject. And he then took those teachings and sold them largely to a Jewish audience. And then later, those ideas were picked up by non-Jews. And I kind of fall in line with Rambam in that I see Christianity as being part of the divine plan. It's because of Christianity and Islam that the entire world has the name of mine and Israel's great-great-great-great-grandfathers on the tips of their tongue. They know who Israel is, Israel. They know who Isaac. They know Ibrahim. Because Islam and Christianity carried. No idea.
No idea how he died. Okay, right. Again, it's just bizarre, to say the least, that the Talmud has this character, Jesus of Nazareth, who has a very similar character arc, and the same.
But you've injected the of Nazareth. It is multiple places written by various scribes in very different ways. Yeah, Yeshua.
Again,
Yeshua Notzri.
What else would they need? What would be the main defining characteristic of Jesus of Nazareth that they would have to.
So what I'm saying is, I think the Hanotri was added.
Well, which you think it was added or removed? Like if they're censoring
I think
these
the Hanotri
texts...
was I think the Hanotri was added by scribes later as Christianity became the dominant religion. Some people connected it to Jesus, and I think that's where the Hanotri came from. I think
there would be no reason to edit out if it just said like there was this guy Yeshua. It wouldn't. But like the Notary part, the Nazarene part is the part that would need to be edited out. And considering that this was so heavily redacted and edited, it would seem that the most damning statement, Jesus of Nazareth, is actually the original.
So
truth.
Maybe I'm not being clear as well. I'm saying I believe that because the text has been censored, we don't know what it said. We really don't. We've got multiple versions floating around. And I'm happy to concede that I believe some people believe it was talking about Jesus of Nazareth, Jesus of the New Testament. You only need to go on X and find rabbis that believe that today, and they use it to insult Christians and Christianity. It is a view that exists in the Jewish world. I'm not saying it's the dominant view. I think the opposite is true. I think the dominant view is Judaism is completely indifferent on the question of Jesus and Christianity. Completely indifferent. And that's why when you ask me, what do I think? Did he die? Did he do miracles? I don't think he did miracles because I don't think he was a prophet. I don't think he certainly wasn't the son of God. But Jews are indifferent throughout the centuries. But you will find some Jews that aren't indifferent. And we have multiple names here. So I'm saying I don't believe originally. I believe there's two different people. I'll just conclude that. So this one is 135. So basically, I'm just going to skip. There's three figures that we're discussing. There's someone called Yeshu. There's someone called Ben Pandira. And then there's Jesus, son of Mary. Interestingly, he's never called Yeshu ben Miriam or Yeshu ben Yosef or Yeshu ben God, Hashem, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. He's always called Yeshu, Hanotri, Yeshu, Yeshua, multiple names. But one of them lives 100 years before, completely different circumstances. Yes, you're right, Israel. There's enough similarities for people to connect dots and say, I think this is talking about Jesus. And I don't think it's just people with hostile intentions that do this. I believe there are Jews that connect those dots. And then the other one lives 100 years after the crucifixion. But either way, none of the account adds up. Like there's too many details that are different. So either Chazal are completely lost and have no idea what the dominant religion in the world believes, like the most basic things like a crucifixion, most basic details. And none of the stories really line up with like going to Egypt and doing all these sorcery and writing incantations on his arm. Like none of this adds up. It doesn't match the story. There are enough details for people to connect the dots and say, yes, I believe this is talking about Jesus of Nazareth. And yes, that's why Jews were persecuted. That's why Talmuds were burnt. That's why Jews, and that's why I came on to actually talk to you and Hajji, because I wanted to talk to you guys because I think this narrative does damage. There's clearly enough details here that you can take it one or two ways. You can say this is Jesus or this isn't Jesus. I feel very confident saying it's not Jesus because the details are just completely off. Like Toda, who's Toda? Who's Bunny? Who are these people?
Yeah, I would not expect the rabbis to be deeply familiar with the stories of Jesus's disciples. But I'll just point out Jesus of Nazareth, who is accused of being a sorcerer by the Pharisees, which he's accused of in the New Testament, who is accused of going against the rabbis and mocking the rabbis. That's Gittin 57a, right, which says that he's burning an excrement in hell because he went against the rabbis, which is also something that he did in the New Testament, is criticize the Pharisees. This guy, Jesus of Nazareth.
But so does every Jewish heretic. Every Jewish heretic. They're talking about heresy. They're talking about actually.
And who was the most famous heretic, right? Who would obviously be Jesus, right? Who led the most?
So in the time of Onkelos, was Jesus the biggest heretic? In the time of Onkelos, Because you're quoting Onkelos there, yeah?
Yeah, I mean, right after Onkelos, Christianity became
after Onkelos.
Yeah, but
that's my point.
but that was the time. Imagine how big Christianity had to be in order for it to become the religion of Rome.
There's a few years between Onkelos and Jesus. A few years. Yes. Christianity was a tiny religion at the time of Onkelos.
I mean, it wasn't tiny. It was gaining a lot of traction, and Onkelos was part of the royal family, Constantine, and ultimately, after that time
it wasn't
period,
until it was 100 and something years later when they put out the decrees, maybe 150, 200 years later, when they started decreeing again. The Romans started coming down on Christianity because it had started growing. At the time of Onkelos, Christianity was tiny. It was a fringe Jewish sect.
I would not say it was fringe, especially because Judaism was broken down into a lot of sects. And the rabbis tried to make themselves, and successfully for a little while, although they still pretend that they are, even though they're like a sliver, like 10% of the Jews. But the rabbis made themselves the dominant sect, and they spent a lot of their time criticizing the Sadducees in the Talmud, criticizing the Sadducees who were more just textually based, and criticizing the Christian cult, the Nazarite cult of Jesus, right? And saying that,
but they mentioned that they go after the Sadducees, and you can read them going after various different sects that exist in that period. That Christianity is actually named once much later, so a few hundred years after some of the texts we're reading. So you obviously have the people that aren't Jewish that are watching. You have the people of the Mishnaic period. And then you have people just before Islam, and just before Islam comes around, they mention Hanotzrim, and so this point in one place, I forgot where in the Gemara, it does actually call the Christians Notzrim. Right. It's to do with giving honor covered to Sunday because of the Notzrim. It's a weird verse. It says they shouldn't, I think it was to do with fasting. I can't remember the details, on Sunday out of honor of the Notzrim, which is just like, if you're so hostile, why would you honor their day? None of that makes any sense. But
right. And again,
that's the only place, and it's centuries after the period we're talking.
Right. So
Christianity is mentioned.
There were two more really very similar details. Was he was hung on the eve of Passover, and hung could mean crucified. So they were trying to stone him, but ultimately he was hung. Now you could say he was hung after he was stoned, but again, that's within.
I mean, it says he was stoned, though. Yeah.
No, it doesn't say he was stoned. It says they wanted to stone him, but he was hung on the eve of Passover. So even if you, the rabbis, but the rabbis
doesn't
are
say
always,
instead of being. So the process is you stone someone and then you hang the body.
Yes, in rabbinic Judaism, but obviously the rabbis are going to try to present.
And who's
the rabbis? But they're going to try to present it as if everything was going according to their law, which it clearly wasn't. It was going according to Roman.
So why not just say he was crucified? Why
because
say
they have a vested interest in making it sound like they had more power than they did.
Okay. Look, you're entitled to believe that.
And again, regarding chronology, they could, because this was so heavily censored, it also could be that they would place Yeshua ben Prachia there to kind of throw off the chronology, because they're trying to throw people off the scent, right? That could also be
why are they at this period where in the Kalot of Ravashin Ravina, where you're saying so someone because then when we go back to the older manuscripts, they align. So we can't go all the way back, but we can go back. I think, I've got it somewhere. I went through all the manuscripts I could find, and there were some. I think the oldest I could go back with these verses was the early 1100s. It was Florence 7, I think, is the oldest copy I found, which is 1177. So it's really late. Yeah,
pretty late. So I'm saying, because these texts are so heavily doctored, either it could have been deliberately changed to throw people off the chronology, or alternatively, the Talmud also has other chronologies they get wrong, even in the Tanakh. And you can find multiple places in which the Talmud either doesn't know the chronology, or they don't really care, and they're just trying to speak in broad terms.
Okay, so look, I maybe 1,200 years ago, somebody scribbled out someone else's name and changed it. maybe.
I mean, but that's your whole
Yeshua
argument.
ben
Your whole argument is that
No,
it's
my argument.
Yoshua ben
argument
Prachia.
is,
Well, you have these other minor arguments, but those are minor. Your main argument is Yoshua ben Prachia.
no, my main
points
argument
us-
is that every single person that's mentioned in every story dates it before or after the Bible, the New Testament, Jesus. So it doesn't matter who you're talking.
Which character places Jesus 100 years before Jesus? Yoshua ben Prachia. So by inserting that name,
but Shimon ben Shatta, there's multiple characters that place him. Yanai, King Yanai, like multiple.
Right. So I'm saying they would place characters to surrounding.
But every other
Jesus of
character is
Nazareth.
chronologically correct. So everyone in the story is chronologically correct. The three of them live at the same period, and then they insert all three of them just so nobody thinks it's Jesus.
Yes, you're talking about the most altered verses in the Talmud. Like when I was in yeshiva, we would read the stories of Jesus, and it was literally in different print because of how many times it was removed and put back. Okay, these are the most altered versions of the Talmud. That's not
no,
so,
but
that's not so crazy.
Story.
That's not so crazy to assume that they would write a story and place it 100 years back in time in order to.
Would it not be easier just to change? Would it not be easier to change the name to David?
No, they want you to know who you know.
But
then because it's from a different period. It's an if you know kind of thing, but they're doing whatever they can to make sure that you don't know who they're really talking about.
So you're expecting
people like you can argue. People like you can argue, oh, you know, there's other people there. The chronology doesn't work out.
So I just want to lay out what you're saying, so I'm really clear. Yeah. You think the story's originally about Jesus of the New Testament, so they insert Jesus into a period 100 years before he lived with three different people to corroborate.
So people wouldn't be.
Would it not just be easier to change the name?
Well, no, it would be easier to remove it completely, which is what they did. So then they would remove the name, but
they never removed it.
Yes, they
Why
did.
not just remove the story?
Sometimes they say that man, right? Sometimes they say, oh, he spoke to that man, or like you know, they don't even always say the name Jesus clearly, right? In one of my prints it says, you know, he went to inquire of that man who made all the Israelites sin and went against the rabbis, and then one of the commentaries on the side says that's Yeshu. Right, so this was again.
And then another comments on the side will show Yeshu means may his name be. It's an acronym. May his name be erased and forgotten. So there's multiple. Yeshu is an acronym. There's multiple theories as to the censorship and what the name means, etc. There is censorship, but what I'm saying is, my reading's very simple. There's somebody called Yeshu. He lives 100 years before Jesus of the New Testament. Very few of the details that we hear about this Yeshu
very few.
Jesus. Five disciples.
All of them do. Yeah, but again, I'm not expecting the rabbis to know anything about the disciples.
He was hung. It was on Shabbat. It was like
it was on the eve of the Passover. His name was Jesus of Nazareth. He was accused of heresy and going against the rabbis and sorcery. You know, there's a lot of similarities there as well. So, you know, again, I think.
But the similarities, with the exception of Passover, with the exception of Pesach, the similarities would be applicable to any Jewish heretic. Or almost any Jewish heretic. Well, no, Yeshu. Yeshu is a very, very common name. How many times has the name Shimon appeared? Shimon Bar Yochai, Shimon ben Lachish, Shimon ben Gamliel. There's multiple Shimon ben Gamliels. Like Shimon. Hillel, Gamliel. These are like common names.
Yeah, of Nazareth. Yeah, it's especially.
No, but I'm saying I don't think that.
You don't even think
if Hanotri was in every single, if it was in every single text, absolutely, I'd grant you it. But it's the majority of the texts don't say Hanotri; they just say Yeshu.
Right, because again, they removed it.
No, but you can see when you look at the text, you can see how big the space that's been scratched out is. You can see whether it had two words or whether it had a tiny little 3-letter word. You can see that by how big the space is. So we know whether it's a Yeshu or Yeshu. And in the older manuscripts, it's both.
Right. So, but the first thing they would erase would be Notzari, Nazarite, and Nazarene. And then also.
But then you have to. But no, that's not how okay. Imagine you've got two words. You've got a sentence and you've got two words. If you rub out two words, there's going to be a big gap,
right? And
you can't just shift everything right because that's not how you don't have a backspace with when you're writing on paper, and so or parchment, and so we know how many words there was, whether it was one or two. And with the older manuscripts, some say Yeshu, some say Yeshua, some say Yeshua Hanotzri, some say Yeshua Hanotzri. There's multiple. Actually, I've never. Yeah.
Right. Well,
All
you
I'm saying
also have
is-
to consider that even the name Yeshu, as it is colloquially understood, is referring to Jesus. Most Jews don't say, "Oh, Jesus, Yeshu Hanotzri." They just say Yeshu, and they already know who they're talking about.
But that's like,
Yeah, it's developed
after
later on
century,
because
yeah.
of
Like, if you hear
Talmudic-
the name Yeshua, with all due respect, if you hear the name Yeshua, do you think of your friend Yeshua, or do you think of Jesus? Most people will now think of Jesus because the Christians use the term Yeshua to refer to Jesus. And so that's the association. Just because people have an association with a name now, it doesn't mean that was the
but that
intention of the Psalm.
association was developed because of the rabbinic Talmudic dialect, that this is who they refer to, this is how they refer to him. And again, they could have edited out in succession. Like first they edited out the Notzri part, and then when the Gentiles were getting digging deeper into the Talmud, they removed the whole Yeshu thing to begin with. So I'm just saying we don't know exactly how these things developed, but let's just say there's a shocking coincidence of how it aligns. And the only thing that you've been able to prove is that the characters surrounding the Jesus character in the Talmud were not chronologically aligned. But again,
Not
that's also
chronology. Details are completely different. The details
Yes,
are completely
I
different.
heard that, but I'm just saying that doesn't bother me at all. The rabbis are creating a counter narrative. They don't care who the disciples of Jesus are. Okay, they're going to try to present it as if they were the ones ruling over the case. They're not going to say, "Oh, the Romans just took him away from us, and all we could do is just say kill him." No, they're going to say we adjudicated the case. They're trying to present themselves as if they're powerful. We have rabbinic authority. We're the ones who killed him, right? So that again, that's irrelevant. The only argument you've really brought is, oh, it was not chronologically correct, and I'm saying that's.
I mean,
also
would you agree that
altered.
let's step back. Would you agree that the Ben Pandira, that's a different person? There's two different characters there, or would you say they're the same person?
It would seem to be a different character. Just
Okay,
there's not enough.
So now it's the main. So that's cool. So
yeah, when they literally name him, I think that would probably be the best place to look. That whole other thing, it seems to be a side point. But bro, come on, we got to hear from you. You've just been listening along.
You're mute. You're mute.
I think you're muted, bro. Now you're unmuted. No,
Maybe
I can't hear you.
No.
Okay, I'm sure we'll hear him when his mic works. But yeah.
Okay, so we're now occupying Bro Hajji's channel. Typical Jews.
Yeah. Well, look, I definitely see your point, but as you mentioned, even rabbis like Rabbi Singer believe that this is referring to Nazareth.
Back.
Can you hear me now?
There you
but
go.
with a bit of an echo.
Yeah, it's because the mic's gone dead. I have to listen to you guys dash it up for an hour. Okay. Should I put it on now? Is it working? Hello, how about now? No.
We're good, yeah.
Okay, I'm going to use the laptop mic for now. Once it gets a bit better, I'll come close to the laptop so you can hear me clearly.
You're good.
Okay, so to conclude, and obviously I'll allow you both to have closing statements, and you could fire on me. That's fine. I'm willing to put myself forward. So, Joseph, final comments on this whole Yeshua, Jesus being part of the Talmud or not?
So these verses have been used to literally murder Jews throughout the ages. There's clearly a strong, very compelling argument that this is not talking about Jesus of the New Testament. Very few of the details align. If you wanted to tell the story of Jesus, which is very well known, I mean, you were even saying yourself, you were trying to argue it was big at the time of Onkelos, you could put some much bigger and more identifiable stories. It would be very easy to say this is Jesus. But going to Egypt, doing incantations, getting executed by the Sanhedrin, getting stoned and then hung, there's just so many details that don't match the New Testament Jesus. And so I think it's very reckless for people to come on and speak as authoritatively as Israel did and say that this is definitely speaking about Jesus. And I can't remember exactly what you said, but you were very dismissive and saying that I was trying to deceive people effectively. I can't remember the exact wording you used. And I think that's incredibly disingenuous to present what I'm what my position is in that way. What I'm saying is I'm reading the text literally. There's three characters: Jesus of the New Testament, there's then Ben Pandira, and then there's this person called Yeshu. And they're three distinct characters with very different stories. Some of the details line up. One's got a mum called Miriam. The other was killed around the Passover period. But they're different people. They're clearly different people. And so I thought it was very dangerous for you to come on to an audience which is probably quite hostile to the Jewish people. No offense, bro Hajji, but I've spent enough time with the Ummah to know that we're not the most loved amongst even though I love Kitab. I thought it was very dangerous to go on there and say that we're saying that a prophet of Islam and the God of the Christians is burning in excrement, because it doesn't paint us in that positive a light. And I don't believe the text is saying that at all, as I've just taken you through.
Okay. Well, again, I'm glad you don't believe that, because it's definitely a very derogatory way to look at a character who, even though I don't have Christian beliefs, I still think is a great man and obviously left quite a mark on history. But, you demonstrated your ignorance of Christianity again, which is like basic New Testament. Matthew chapter 2, verses 13 and 15 speaks about Egypt being the place that Jesus's family went to. And it seems that Jesus was actually raised in Egypt. So that, again, would be something that for the rabbis to point to and be like, oh, Jesus was someone who got his sorcery from Egypt, right?
In Alexandria, he went, we just it's your closing remarks.
It's fine. Yeah, it says he went with his rabbi. But the point is that the idea that Jesus gathered necromancy from Egypt was also something that was taken by the rabbis to disprove him. And again, like I said, you're looking at the fact that this is very, very shocking alignment. Jesus of Nazareth, this is something that's heavily redacted and edited over the years, which again would make sense for the rabbis to change the chronology in order to push people off the scent, to remove the words altogether. They remove Nazarene, they remove Jesus altogether, then they put it back in, depending on where the persecution is at. Ultimately, we're looking at a character named Jesus of Nazareth, who's accused by the Pharisees of going against the rabbis and of necromancy and sorcery, which is something that he was accused of in the New Testament as well. They then hang him / crucify him on the eve of Passover. And then we're looking at a situation where Jesus is killed by the hand of the Pharisees on the eve of Passover. So yeah, you can point to the fact that they said it went through a rabbinic process. That's par for the course for the rabbis to say that they're the ones who governed everything according to their laws. And the fact that they don't know the names of Jesus's disciples is not surprising to me at all. And ultimately, the final point that you made, which is that this is dangerous, even though you also admitted that mainstream rabbis believe that this is true. Like, it's not to me, it's not dangerous, because I don't know why Jews even hold the Talmud as an authority, right? The reality is that once you got rid of the Talmud as an authority, what the Talmud says simply is inconsequential to what I believe. I don't care what the Talmud says. The Talmud could say whatever the hell it wants. It has no bearing on my own personal beliefs. I believe what the Torah says. The Torah never says a word about Jesus, actually. And so there's nothing to even be said. So the reality is that this only bears negatively upon the Jewish people, so long as the Jewish people maintain this Talmudic tradition. And now you either have to deny that it exists or admit it and just be like, whatever, we don't like the guy, right? But when you realize that the Talmud should not represent mainstream thought of Israel, because the Talmud is simply opinions of rabbis, and Israel is supposed to be governed by the laws of God, which are written in the 5 books of Moses, this whole conversation really becomes inconsequential, because the Talmud could say whatever it says, and you don't have to sit here trying to argue that it doesn't mean what it says or that it happened in a different chronology. Just say, who cares? The Talmud is wrong, and that's it. End of story. So that's kind of where I'll close, is that I think it's pretty clear the alignment between the characters and the names are too clear to deny that there's some connection here. I think this is the most redacted, edited verses in the Talmud, so it makes sense they're trying to change things about details and chronology and things like that. But ultimately, regardless of anything, for Jews to be murdered on account of what the Talmud says makes no sense, obviously. unless Jews walked around professing the beliefs of the Talmud and saying, "Oh, we really believe in the Talmud. We love this book. This is our New Testament." And the Talmud says non-Jews who keep Shabbat are deserving of death. The Talmud says non-Jews who study the Torah are deserving of death. The Talmud says non-Jews this. You know what? We love the Talmud. The Talmud's the best. No, reject the Talmud. The Talmud is not the truth. God's word is the truth. That's in the 5 books of Moses. That's the Torah.
Thank you very much, Israel, for that closing statement. So I'm just charging the mic. So is my voice coming out clear, or is it a bit?
Yeah, it's great.
Okay, perfect. So go on, Joseph. Fire away. What would you like to ask me about Islam? Is there any sort of pressing questions? I know you debate a lot of Muslims online. Your TikTok page comes on my feed a lot, so I do hear you a lot. So yeah, whatever you want to ask me, I'm open. But fire away.
I mean, I was going to try and keep it on subject, but okay. Yes. Okay. In Islam,
yeah,
I believe the Quran gives al-Ard al-Muqaddasa, the Holy Land, to Bani Israel. Prove me wrong. Change my mind.
Okay. So when you said the Ard al-Muqaddasa, that was at the time where that verse refers to Musa alayhi salam and his qawm, right? That enter.
No. I mean, yes, it's Musa that's addressing the people. But it's the people after Musa.
Yeah, so they didn't go on jihad. So when the Jabbarin that were in the land, they didn't go on jihad. They said, "You and your Lord go and fight." Now we said that's conditional, right? So at the time, Musa or Bani Israel were given revelation, and they were the people of the book, or they were Ahl al-Kitab, or they were the 12 tribes of Israel, right? When you look at the Deuteronomy, for example, it's all conditional on obeying Allah's commands. So if I quote you Deuteronomy that says, if you obey God's commands, the covenant stays with you. And if you don't obey God's command, punishment will come. And that's Deuteronomy 28. If I present that to you, do you believe that verse then is at all times and all places? Or is it conditional on obeying God's commands?
I mean, just going back to the Quran says exactly what happens. Is then like 3 ayat later.
Which is?
There's a punishment for not going into the land. For disobeying, for not having iman, they get punished for that.
But we know you should be
punishment. That punishment is temporary.
No, it's not. In Deuteronomy, the Quran doesn't.
No. Just like we can go to Deuteronomy in a minute.
No, what I'm saying is, you're saying it's forever. Kataba, like Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala decreed it forever. That enter udkhulu al-ardu muqaddisa, and that Allah has given to you. That according to you, and again, that's your interpretation. I base it on the Quran. That this is forever and ever and ever. It's not conditional on obeying Allah's commands. That's
not me. That's Ibn Abbas. That's like major.
Ibn Abbas said what? That is forever, or that covenant was there.
The Katabah, the land. So if you read, who was it? Forgotten. I'm just trying to remember which tafsir.
I've got the books here, by the way, Joseph. I've got Tabari.
Tabari. It said go to Tabari. Tabari says that.
What
he says basically that I hope it's Tabari. I hope I've not got that wrong. I hope it's not Bagawi. That
Bagawi.
An idiot.
Bagawi?
Yeah.
So
but check Tabari first. I think it's Tabari.
This is Tabari. So this is Tabari.
Just pull up Tabari as well. I'm just
I got it. Well. So it mentions that the Ard al-Muqaddasa, Damesh, or Palestine.
He starts saying what is al-Ard al-Muqaddasa, whether it's.
I'm just going by it. So just to show you, I'm being consistent and being fair to you, right? Then it mentions that entering the Ard al-Muqaddasa, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala كتب الله لبني إسرائيل وكان الذين أمرهم موسى, and Allah ordered Musa to enter it from the Bani Israel, and it carries on. So you see, you could go into it. I don't know whether you've got it in front of you. The verse says after, providing that you do not apostate and do not go against your heels and turn as losers. Now, look, this is what I'm trying to clarify now, right? Yusha bin Nun was the one that conquered Ard al-Muqaddasa from the Jabbarin
40 years later. By the way, none of that's in Quran. Yes, you agree?
No. This is why you referred me to Tabari. I'm quoting Tabari.
No, Tabari will say Yusha. Yeah, I agree.
So what I'm saying, he says here clearly that it says, "It kana Yusha wa Kalib qad dakhala." That Yusha bin Nun and Caleb entered it, and they were the ones. Wakana mimman khota. These are the two that was given this particular saying. Wakana aidan wajhan sahihan. This is the true understanding of that verse. That when it says enter, it was referring to Yusha bin Nun and Caleb, right? But I'm just trying to move forward now, right? I'm trying to move forward. So we got that verse out of the way.
No, but you keep going because I'll say it in English because my Arabic isn't strong enough.
Okay, no,
Meaning
sorry,
that by Allah wrote it for the children of Israel, and those who
I agree.
Moses commanded Musa to enter, it were from the children. But he did not mean that Allah exalted in his mention.
What's that?
Had written Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had written it specifically for those exact individuals whom he commanded to enter. So what you're saying, it's not talking about the people that's in front of Musa in that moment. It's for Jews for all time. And I agree with you, it is conditional because we get if you fast forward to Al-Isra and you go to the is it either third or the fourth ayah when it talks about the 2 times that the Jews lose the land. The first time being the Babylonian exile, the second time being the Roman exile. And so we agree that the generation of Musa, sallallahu alaihi wasallam,
that's no problem.
Don't take away blessings from Moses, please. If you love Moses, give him proper blessings. Okay, but sallallahu alaihi wasallam is more than just peace. It's more than peace.
Go for it.
We love Musa. We love Musa.
We love Musa as well. We love Musa alayhi salam.
Okay, so then throw in a sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. There's a hadith. I forgot what it is. It's definitely in Bukhari. But there's a Jew and a Muslim are arguing who's the best prophet. And the Jew says Musa. And the Muslim slaps him. And so Muhammad rebukes him. So if I say sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, say I agree.
And the Prophet said, do not say I am better than Musa. So the humility of the Prophet. So, it's not to say the Prophet said it. But let's go back to Surah Ma'idah, right? So look what I've got in front of you now. So when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, enter the Holy Land, Al-Ardu Muqaddisa, which is the neighborhood surrounding Palestine, Jordan, Syria, and whatnot. Now,
I think we're agreeing.
No, we're agreeing. I'm not disagreeing with you. I think your premise is that when Allah says that entered into the Holy Land that Allah has decreed for you, this kataba here, it's now referring to, Ashkenazi Jews who've got the British mandate of Palestine.
It's referring, forget Ashkenazi, Sephardi, the descendants of Yaqub sallallahu alayhi wasallam, Israel. Not Israel, Horowitz, but Israel, Jacob.
No, but you're saying this is promised to you by God.
So I'm saying, let me be very clear. It's promised to us, it's given to us. It's given to us in my book and it's given to us in your book. But it is conditional. And the condition is when we submit to the will of the Creator and we follow his law, then God preserves us in the land. He sustains us in the land. And when we rebel against him, the land spits us out.
And you did rebel against God even after Musa, even after.
So there's 3 times. Yeah, there's 3 times mentioned in the Quran. There's the time of Musa, there's the Babylonian exile, and then there's the Roman exile.
But it's in the Torah as well, which I'm presenting to you now. It's in the Torah
then there's no with them. There's no.
I'll give you an example in our hadith. I'll give you an example in our hadith, Joseph, right? Just to show you where I'm consistent. The Prophet ﷺ said in a hadith, this is Abi Dawud. He said, إِذَا بَايَعْتُمْ بِالْعِينَ وَأَخَذْتُمْ بِالْأَدْنَى بِالْبَقَرِ وَرَضِيتُمْ بِالزَّرْعِ وَتَرَكْتُمْ بِالْجِهَادِ سَلَّطَ اللَّهُ عَلَيْكُمْ ظُلًّا لَا يَنْزِلَ حَتَّى تَرْجِعُوا إِلَى دِينِكُمْ. Meaning, if you start engaging in interest and start holding on to the tails of cows and you leave jihad fi sabilillah, Allah will humiliate you. Now, the same thing that happened to Bani Israel. They left Allah's commands, and even Allah saying to you here in Deuteronomy, but if you do not obey Allah, Allah will curse you. And I'll go to the next verse after. He said he will punish you from the land. So we believe he did that numerous times.
So I agree. The 3 times mentioned in the Quran are the major 3 times that we would agree with. I think Israel would agree with that. I would agree with that.
Yeah.
In that the Jews lost the land in the generation of Moses, and they wandered for 40 years. The Jews lost the land before the Babylonian exile, and then we lost again with the Roman exile. We've now returned, and subhanallah.
Okay, so would you say that? Okay, beautiful. Okay, that's what you say. You return. Okay, you returned due to obviously certain declarations. But would you say then from the time when you lost it after the Roman destruction up until the finding of the Zionist state, you were cursed according to this verse in Deuteronomy? Would you agree you were cursed then?
I mean, you need. So I would say exile has been hard for the Jewish people.
No, but the verse says that you were cursed and you're not, and Allah will let loose against you your calamity, panic, and frustration will make you pestilence, clean. So all of that period when you were exiled, and then the Muslims come and obviously allowed you back due to the pact of Umar radiallahu anhu, would you say you were cursed then from that time until the return, or so-called return?
Allahu A'lam. Allahu A'lam.
Allahu A'lam, what are you saying? Or Allah?
Yeah. Allahu A'lam, yeah. That's what I'm saying.
I wouldn't say Allahu A'lam. I'll say for sure, because your own Bible is saying you were cursed for that time.
Yeah, it's just God knows, but our experience in exile has not been. It's not been.
So see, look, even for us now, the Prophet also said that that the people would raise against you, and then the companion said, "Because are we going to be small in number during that time?" And the Prophet said, "Bal antum kathirun." You will be huge in number, but you'll be the froth of the wave that comes. So it happens. We're not saying now that every single land is promised to us the way you have like this, unlimited deed for the land of Palestine. We don't say that for the Muslims. We have it.
But the Quran says that for the Jews. The Quran says that for the Jews. You're making a mockery of me.
Conditional, Joseph.
No, what we agree is conditional as well. But it is there. There is a deed.
At that time, beautiful. I agree. At that time, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
Where does it say at that time?
No, yeah. When Musa, I just read the tafsir of Imam Tabari. The one
Tabari literally says, but he did not mean that Allah exalted his mention had written it specifically for those exact individuals.
No, he was referring to
he's saying it's Jews all the time. He's saying Bani Israel. And that's why Dawood, Solomon, and all these great prophets and kings live in the land.
Imam Tabari said that this verse, I read it out to you, this verse is referring to, and I'll read it out again for you, at the end of what Imam Tabari says, هذا وجه صحيح. Where are they going again? Let me just get it for you, my bro. 2 seconds. I'm just trying to find it. Oh, we're just going to put the mic back on now, okay, mate? Okay, there you go. Look what it says. Okay, hold on just a sec, Joseph. Yeah. Is
that better now, Joseph?
Yeah, I think so. I realize that I'm doing a lot of the talking. Israel, feel free to chip in.
No, let me refer it to you. No, it's fine. It's fine. Look, I'm putting it here for you. Look, I'm reading Tabari. So it says that this was what it was. The people declared what this goal of the Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Kana aidan wajhan sahihan. This was the correct angle that it was referring to Yusha bin Nun. Now you say, again, you're entitled to your view that it was kataba and it was forever, even now we're back into the land of Israel, obviously I would say occupied. You're saying that's the prophecy of the Quran. I think it's far-fetched, Joseph. With all due respect, I think it's far-fetched.
So maybe I'm going crazy. What does Tabari say for Allati kataba Allahu lakum? Is that the bit you're reading? Okay, mine doesn't mention Yusha anything. I think
I'll give you an example.
Need to be further down.
With tafsir, Joseph, he has different aqwal, he has different sayings from different mufassirin. So when Imam Tabari does it, he presents a view and he says,
everything,
yeah. So for example, now I'm trying to find in Ma'idah. There you go, Ma'idah. I'll go back to Ma'idah. So he says here at the start when he presents the verse, right? I'll go back again. There you go. So when you carry on, he mentions there, kataba lakum, right? We're going here now, right? Allati kataba Allahu lakum. And it says, Allati wahaba Allahu lakum, that Allah gave to you. And this is from Muhammad bin Ishaq. He's giving an explanation of the verse, right? Then he carries on and he mentions kataba lakum biqawlihi, that this was written on Lawh al-Mahfuz.
Yes, which is the preserved tablet. Yeah, keep reading, so it's further down what I'm saying. So keep reading.
That this you will reside there. So I'm not disagreeing with you.
No, but read next. Read what comes next, because that's what I'm saying.
I thought you. Oh, sorry. Apologies. Yeah. I thought you've got it in front of you, Josie. Direct me to it, and I'll find it.
I'll share my screen. We're going to. Bear with me.
كتب لكم. The كتب في هذا الموضع بمعنى أمر. So كتب means in this meaning commanded or ordered. That's it, and that's the verse ends there. Then he goes to the verse.
Okay, let me share my screen.
أمركم الله بها. التي أمركم الله بها. Allah ordered it for you. It's the same thing. It's all there.
I'm just going to share my screen. Bear with me. Window. So this is I've pulled this off tafsir.app.
Have you?
So it's in a presentation. But you want that on the you want that on the right.
Yeah. I'm just trying to put it now. Okay, let me remove this one first. You won't let me until I remove this one. Give me 2 secs. Which one did I have? Remove.
Joseph, can I ask you a question?
Yes, please.
Yeah.
There you go.
Well, first read this verse, but even if it says what you say it says, I still have a question for you.
Okay.
But Joseph, read what's on the screen then. So at least then you could direct.
Okay,
me
my
towards it.
Arabic's not good, but I'll read it.
No, Joe, just read it and I'll find it on here and I'll go into it. It's fine.
So let me blow it up. Let me make it. I see what's happened there. It's done two screen. Wait there. Let me reshare my screen.
There you go.
No, it's the. Can you see that? Yeah, perfect.
Okay, it was given to the children of Israel.
I can zoom in on that.
So if someone says, yeah, I got that there. وَلَوْ قَالَ قَائِلٌ قَدْ كَانَ مَكْتُوب لِبَعْدِهِمْ. Yeah, I got it there. Is that it? No, I can't see that. It's too small for me, Joseph. I can't really see it to direct it.
Okay, wait. Let me zoom in.
It was written for the children of Israel as a home and dwelling.
No, he wants the Arabic. He wants. The Arabic.
So I can find it on here. I can find it on here.
Yeah. So let me bear with. I'm just gonna zoom.
This is Tabari, right? It's not.
I'm pretty sure it's Tabari. Yeah. I'm pretty
sure. Not Bagawi either. There you go.
Pretty sure.
Go on. Let's read it then. Come on. There you go. فإن قال قائل فكيف. Yeah, go on then.
No, I'm saying see if you can find it.
Yeah, I've got it. So you go to the translation and I'll look at if the translation's accurate or not now. I've got it now in the book.
Right, but isn't he talking about the historical event of Moses?
That's what I'm saying. It's the historical event.
Yes, it's the historical event, but then Tabari says he finishes because some people may think it's just talking about the Muslims the Jews that in front of Moses at that time only. It's that generation. And he said, no, it includes those, but it's also the Jews after them because they wander for 40 years. And then afterwards, the Jews enter the land and they're basically there for 1,000 years and they raise prophets, they raise kings.
Okay, Joseph, but Joseph, who are the Jewish people? Who is Israel?
The descendants of Israel. Now, the Quran doesn't say who that is, but
no, I'm asking you, according to you, forget about the Quran for a second.
Jewish.
What are who is Israel?
The descendants of Jacob.
The descendants of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob.
No, not Abraham, Isaac, Jacob. The descendants
Abraham,
of Jacob.
Isaac, and Jacob, right?
No, Abraham. The descendants of Jacob. Are you asking me what my definition is?
No. I mean through the line of Abraham, Isaac to Jacob. So yes.
Okay. So yeah.
We're agreeing.
But
right?
only descendants of Jacob,
right.
and those which the descendants of Jacob bring into Kahal Kadosh, into the holy congregation.
Okay. So including converts.
Including converts, yeah.
Okay, so what's the definition of an Israelite then? If it can't just
Israelite,
be descendants. It can't just be descendants if you're accepting converts.
So we're referred to as a goy and as an am at multiple places in the Torah, and so a goy or an am means a nation. So we're
who's
a nation.
Welcome in the land? Anyone that follows the Torah, right?
Do I have to pay jizya under the
No, you have to pay jizya, bro, Hajji. Jizya. It's much
worse. I know, but you also have that same concept within Judaism, rabbinical Judaism as well.
So yeah, we have many concepts. I'm not aware of jizya, but that Israel
not in the Torah. In the Torah, there's no fine for anyone who's not Israel.
In the Talmud, there's a concept of a tax to pay.
I'm sorry, Joseph. I'm not familiar with that quote, but Joseph, are you saying that someone who follows the Torah is not welcome in Israel? It's whoever Israel decides to welcome is considered part of Israel. So it's up to us to decide, or it's up to God.
No, so God gives it to the descendants of Jacob. Yeah. It's given to this land to you and your descendants as an eternal inheritance. That's our book.
Yet there's one Torah, one law for the native and for the stranger, right? Ger echad latoshav laezrach v'lager, right? So the native and the foreign and the sojourner who lives amongst us.
We would interpret. I'd imagine Israel, because you'd be quite literal in the text. I'd assume. We'll interpret ger different. I interpret a ger, a stranger, as a
someone
convert.
Who's rabbinically converted, right?
Yeah.
Right. So again, that's not a Torah concept. Nowhere in the Torah does it say that a convert needs to go through rabbinic conversion. Let's leave that aside for a second, though, because with all your
there has to be some way of somebody joining the Jewish people. Ruth is an example.
Well,
Ruth who is for the Muslims, right? Yeah. No, I'm not saying that. I mean, you read. I'm not going to say there was or wasn't. I don't know. What I was going to say is Ruth. So hear me out, Israel. Ruth is the great grandmother of Dawood, King David, and she's from a different people, and she joins the Jewish people, and she takes on our ways. And what Israel's arguing is there is no formal conversion process. And I would agree that the conversion process we have today isn't even recognizable to Harambam. Maimonides, the conversion, he's saying you shouldn't push people away because they may go to idolatry and chase false gods. And it seems like the conversion process, even in Rambam's time, was much faster. What I believe, and this is where we diverge, and it's a separate argument because I would like to do the Islam thing as well. But I believe that Judaism is a civilization, and we have a Supreme Court which unifies the entire people and prevents us from slipping into anarchy. You look at how other religions are completely divided.
Right, I'm sorry to interrupt you. I'm not even disagreeing with this whole point, which is that we both agree that people from other nations can join the nation of Israel, right? We agree with that, which means that being an Israelite fundamentally is not just about blood relationship, it's about entering into the covenant and following the Torah. You say that according to rabbinic interpretation, I say according to literal Torah interpretation. That's a different conversation. My point is that an Israelite is not just someone who is in name a Jew, but it's someone who actually gets to join themselves as part of the Israelites, because even people who have the name Jew have entirely uncertain lineage. First of all, they go to the mother.
We're about to diverge into a hugely separate tangent, a different debate, and I do want to do the Islam thing.
Yeah,
it's not a tangent, because even what Islam is saying, which is echoing the Torah, which is that the land belongs to the children of Israel.
No. So in Islam, Bani Israel is a very specific. Bani means the children, and same with Bnei.
Yes, but we don't even have any preserved lineage of people that are direct descendants of Abraham.
The Kohanim. What are you talking? Kohanim. The Kohanim, the Levium.
Allegedly, they claim that, but also are you saying?
Okay, so but that's a direct lineage. They have genetic. They have a common genetic ancestors, irrespective of where they live in the world. They're our strongest. Even myself, I am as mixed as can be. My haplotype, my haplogroup, goes back to the Levant. Like,
the point is you're not. Yes, but
half British.
Yeah, I'm sure that you have some Judean roots. The question is, are you a direct descendant, paternal descendant, because the Torah says it has to be through the fathers, carry the lineage, we're the children of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, not Sarah, Rebecca, and Leah, right? A paternal descendancy lineage from father to son. Also, which tribe are you part of? Right? You're a Cohen.
Unless
the Levites. Well, exactly. The Levites don't even have their own inheritance. The way that the land was divided up at the time of Moses and Joshua was divided up by tribal lineage. We don't even have tribes. So when you say the land belongs to you, what does that mean? It means you can go to the land.
It means that the children of Israel existed in the time of Muhammad. They existed in the time of Jesus, not Yeshua. They existed in the time of the prophets, the Jews. We've existed as a people. We did not go extinct. We've been on, and maybe some people have joined, and maybe there's even one or two families that have no trace back. Maybe they jumped on the bandwagon and pretended, but there is an unbroken record of Jews that trace their way back to Moses. People can trace their families all the way. Sorry, to Jacob. People can trace their families going all the way back to King David. Rashi famously belongs to a line that goes back to King David, according to their family tradition.
So now that you were lucky enough to get yourself involved with the Jewish people who have this deed to the land, what does that mean that the land is yours? Does that mean you can just go take whatever land you want?
No, I don't believe so.
What does that entail?
Like, what does it entail? The land is yours, so you want to live there? Go buy a plot of land. I mean, no one's stopping you. What does it mean the land is mine? What does that mean?
So that's okay.
So
that is very, very simple. It means that we can live here. It means that we can establish a government here. It means that we can rule here.
What kind of government? What kind of government?
I mean,
What government does the Torah, the deed that you're using to claim rights to this land, which, by the way, doesn't mean you can take someone's land who's already living there. It means that, like, yes, this land itself should be governed by the laws of the Torah, and the people of Israel should be living under the umbrella of Torah law. It doesn't mean create a secular Zionist state. It means create a Torah society. It doesn't mean create.
So it's a
Talmudic
stepping stone. It's a stepping stone. And first, the text doesn't say that. The text doesn't say.
The text doesn't say you have to follow the Torah in the land.
No, the text says we have to follow the Torah. It doesn't say that's the condition on us having the land or not. The land.
Of course it does. It says if you don't follow these laws, you will be thrown out of the land. The land will vomit you out.
I agree. I'm not going to argue with that. I agree with you.
It was in Deuteronomy. It says it clearly that you get cursed, you will be banished, your livestock will get taken.
I believe it's a process. I believe we're in the early prangs of the Messianic era. And we have more people learning Torah today in Israel than ever before in Israel's history. You speak to a child, the children sing psalms. They sing. It's the day of rest isn't Sunday. It isn't Jummah. It's Saturday. The language that's spoken, albeit a slightly modified version, is the language of the prophets. People think, dream, speak in Hebrew. You give a child the Torah, the Tanakh, the Old Testament, they can read it. And yes, it's not a Torah state. And truthfully, I don't think the Jewish people are ready for a Torah state. I think we probably have common ground there, Israel. I think that the rabbinut, if there's a religion, it has to be a rabbinut for everybody. It has to be. So to sit on the Sanhedrin, the Supreme Court, which I want, the Beit Din Hagadol, which is the court which was first established with Moses, to sit on that, you had to have spoke 70 languages. You had to be a man of the world so you could judge fairly. I don't think the Jewish people are ready for theocracy today. I think if we had a theocracy in Israel today, it would be a disaster. I think it's a gradual process. And that process starts with Hebrew.
But you can use theocratic language to claim rights to the land and to call an entire group of people.
So the people who advocate
group of people Amalek, as in the prime minister calling the entire group of people Amalek.
No, he didn't call he called Hamas. But ignoring that, the people who would advocate for, say, pride in Tel Aviv, they're not the same people that say we have a God-given right to this land. They're two separate groups of people. One's secular and doesn't believe in God.
Jews do hold that view, though, Joseph. Let's be fair.
Atheist Jews do not believe that God promised them.
No, but they hold the deed pool, don't they? They still hold the deed pool.
No, not at all. No, atheist Jews base it on archaeology. So one of my favorite things to do with my daughter, with the kids, is to go on hikes to Elim, and everywhere you go in Israel, you encounter Jewish history. You go to an old ruin. Near my house, there's a second temple ruin. You can find pieces of mosaic on the floor, which, who knows, maybe Israel's great-great-great-grandfather carved, or maybe older than that. But you can't take 2 footsteps in this land without encountering Jewish archaeology. The atheist, secular Jews base their claim on the land on the rights of an indigenous people to have self-determination on this land.
Can a Native American come take my house?
Yes, they can, Israel.
A Native American has rights to my house?
Yes.
You believe that?
Even the Aboriginals in Australia, they got a right to take over, and because they're the indigenous to that land as well. They've got claim to that.
Look, Bro Hajji, if the Pakistani can take over London,
no, we came because of colonialism. We didn't come on boats and with an army.
This is the difference. We didn't come with boats and army. We purchased land. We bought
slaves of land from people like because of the Balfour Declaration. You didn't come because...
What's the Balfour Declaration? What is the Balfour Declaration?
The Balfour Declaration.
Rothschild purchased...
Yeah,
the majority.
Sorry. Slow down, guys. Slow down.
The majority of Rothschild paid for the Balfour Declaration,
Rothschild?
And the majority.
I'm going to go back.
The majority of Israel is owned by the government. How much land in Israel is private land?
The majority of many nations is owned by the government. It's what
a national state park. So the biblical land is all about ancestral inheritance.
Yeah, okay, but we don't know what our Israel. Who's your which of the brothers do you descend from?
Exactly, that's the whole problem. That's my point. Is that the Jews can't use the Torah, misuse the Torah here. What we're dealing with right now is everyone is essentially a ger, and everyone is welcome in the land so long as they follow the Torah. There's no other standard that the Jewish people can hold themselves to. If they pretend that it matters, this fake lineage that they have, even though that we have no idea how mixed up that is, and we have no idea like what that actually entails, whether it's through the mother.
So do you believe, just out of curiosity, do you believe you descend from Jacob?
I believe it's entirely possible that I have ancestors that trace back to Jacob. Do I believe that I know that that lineage is certain and that it's intact? Of course not. That would be foolish for me to make that claim. It's impossible to know that. And the point is that it doesn't really matter because the Torah
is the probability. No, the Torah doesn't. The concept of converting and joining the Jewish people isn't in the Torah. I mean, there's precedent in the sense of Ruth, but that's based on the people accepting it.
I wouldn't refer to it the term as like conversion, rabbinic conversion. The Torah welcomes people who are not native Israelites as to be part of the covenant and part of the land and part of the people. What it says.
You obviously have a script. I was going to ask what's your scriptural basis.
Yeah, Deuteronomy 29, 9-14 says that God brings everyone into the covenant, including Gerim, including sojourners, non-ethnic Israelites, and it calls them the descendants of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, which would mean that
where were they sojourning?
Well, in the desert at that time. So they were simply like strangers among the wandering Israelites in the desert, and they were entered into the covenant. And what it says there is not only is this covenant here for this time, but it's a covenant for future generations.
So do they have a chilek? Do they have a portion of the land?
So the land actually was only divided up into the tribes, and so it's not clear whether it's not clear whether the sojourners in the desert were integrated into tribes.
When it says I promised this land to your generations,
it was divvied up
as an eternal inheritance.
Yeah, it was divvied up into tribal lands, but the reality is nowadays we don't have tribes, we don't have clear lineages,
and so that's
what I'm saying. Every Jew
is
essentially a sojourner.
When it says that there will be an ingathering of the exiles, the Jews that are outside the land, do you believe that as well? I'm just like,
I believe that God will bring those who it says in Deuteronomy.
So you believe
30,
that the Jewish people still exist?
I just don't think that there's a very clear definition on who the children of Israel are.
I think there's a very clear definition.
There are people that have maintained that label from many different places in the world. There was 12 tribes scattered all over the place. The term Jew is not even a good enough term because it only accounts for one tribe. We have to talk about Israel. We have to talk about the entirety. No, I don't know why you think that like the Jews were the only ones that maintained the Torah. I mean, they were the only ones who maintained the Talmud. But Ethiopian Israelites, for example, they have the Bible, but they don't have the Talmud.
Which tribe was Mordechai from? Yemeni. Mordechai is Yemeni.
Benjamin. Okay.
Yeah, and then it says it describes him as what? A Yehudi, a Jew.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So the tribe, like.
Yeah, I don't agree that. I don't agree. No, I don't think that Jew is a good term to encompass. Why should the entire nation of Israel be encompassed by Judah? That makes no sense. We're called the children of Israel, and that refers to the totality of the nation.
It was the blessing of Yehuda. It was one of his blessings that
his blessing was that his brothers would praise him.
Yeah,
and that he would have kingship. It doesn't mean we'd all be called Judah, but also what I would say is that. Now that we're in a state where none of us know which tribe we come from, none of us can trace ourselves back to tribal lineage. We can't even divvy up the land by tribe, by tribal.
Well, it's most likely we either Benjamin, Yehuda, or Shimon, or the Levium. If you have the tradition that you're a Levi,
what about
maybe one or two that aren't?
What about
because the northern kingdom was lost, and so some of them may have come into the south.
I mean, they weren't lost. No, what do you mean they're lost? They all still exist. There are people that maintain their traditions. You find all
Israel
groups throughout the world.
Do you think your great grandchildren will be identifying as Bnei Israel?
Yes.
That's amazing if they do. Most people that leave the Jewish people, whether they split off to become a new sect, like the Karaites, the Christians, whatever. Once they say, let's say I convert to Islam, it's likely that my children, chas v'shalom, astaghfirullah.
That's a different story. Islam is a different religion, but if you taught your children the Torah and you told them keep the ways of Yehovah, which is righteousness and justice, as is written in the 5 books of Moses, if they follow your advice, which they should, because it's the best advice you can give your children, they will continuously identify as children of Israel. And my point is, going back to
good luck.
Amen. I'll need more than luck. Going back to the Zionist question in Israel, right? Jews, people maintaining this Jewish identity, this loose Jewish identity over thousands of years, coming and saying, "Oh, Muhammad, give me your house," right? I feel like that's not sanctified or sanctioned by the Torah at all. The Torah still,
But
the
that's
Torah yeah.
Where's anybody saying, Muhammad, give me your house?
Well, I think, there's
one New
evidence.
Yorker said, if I don't take it, someone else will.
And you know what he was talking about? He was talking about a house that belonged to the Jewish community in Sheikh Jarrah. It was owned by the El Kurds, and they built an illegal extension on their illegal property. And the court had ruled, they'd been in court case since the 90s, that the illegal extension belonged to the original owners. And so what Yaqub stupidly said, yeah, I've spoken to him online. I don't personally know him. He stupidly said, whereas if I don't steal it, somebody else will. What he meant is somebody else will rent it. If I don't rent it, another Jew will rent it from
stealing,
the owners.
renting, same thing.
Yeah, no, he's sounding like a communist now. Okay,
I just like to question you again a bit further on this, which is that as far as I can understand, logically, scripturally speaking, at this point in history, the only standard that we can hold ourselves to as Jews and everyone else to who wants to live in the land of Israel is follow the laws of the Torah. Yet when you look at the modern Zionist state, that's not at all what's going on. The standard does not follow the laws of the Torah. The standard is Jew. You're a Jew. Your mother's a Jew. Come to the land. If not this, right? They and there's all. And I'm not saying that the Palestinians are amenable to work with the Israelis very much. So I understand the challenge that Israelis face. I'm just saying, what is the standard of what it means to be welcome in the land of Israel? It has to be following the Torah. Otherwise, there is no way to define an Israelite. What is an Israelite? Someone who claims they're an Israelite?
Yes, an Israelite is somebody who descends from Israel.
Yeah, but again, you have no way of proving that.
Yeah, that's the point. How do you prove that, Joseph? Like DNA?
I mean, the Bani Israel that existed in the time of Muhammad, those Bani Israel, they came to Muhammad for judgment. Yeah.
So three tribes: Banu Qaynuqa, Banu Nadir, and Banu.
No, there's more than there's 12 tribes in Medina alone.
No, what I mean is the main three tribes in migration when he went to Medina.
Yeah.
Those were the
No, but I'm saying that so these are all Bani Israel. There are other tribes as well that are mentioned in Al Quran.
Okay, how would you know? Okay, just plain devil's advocate. How would you know they're Bani Israel? How?
Well, first, if I was a Muslim and my text said that they're Bani Israel, and I believed my text was from God,
so my
that
text,
would be proof
doesn't say those Jewish tribes are Bani Israel. By the way, my text don't say that.
It doesn't say that the Bani Israel in the time of Muhammad. Are you sure about that?
Banu Qaynuqa, Banu, like we were mentioning, Banu Qaynuqa, Banu Nadir, and Banu Karaite.
Yes, and are they Muslims?
No.
What?
So how do you know they descended from? They could be converts. Do you see what I mean? They could be, right, from the Jewish kingdom of Yemen.
Well, the Quran said they're the children of Israel.
So do you know, Joseph? I'm sure you do. That there was a Jewish kingdom in Yemen, the only Jewish kingdom in Yemen, right?
Yeah.
So I'm just saying, I'm just trying to argue and just play devil's advocate, right? How do we know those Arabian Jews that migrated to Yathrib before the Prophet ﷺ came? How do you know they weren't converts?
What kind of bid'ah is this? What kind of bid'ah is this?
Bid'ah? What bid'ah is this? I'm asking you a question.
This is bid'ah. It literally says they're Bani Israel. They descend from Israel.
No, where did he say that? Is it a hadith that says that? Educate me. I'm not sure that these Jewish tribes are from Bani Israel specifically, like explicitly.
So let me just this says hadith.
I'll concede. Even if it does say that, that doesn't mean now they've got the deed poll now to go to Palestine or the Ardul Muqaddisa and just start taking people's lands. Do you see what I'm saying? It's really like illogical for you to use that.
So I'm saying that Islam identifies a group of people as descending from Jacob. That's all I'm saying.
Bani Israel, Yaqub, yeah, the 12 tribes, yeah, we agree. I agree.
And that people are alive at the time of Muhammad. Like, step by step, baby steps.
Okay, let's do it.
So we agree that Bani Israel.
I mean, already then there's even many of the rabbis in the Talmud are all converts. The Onkelos, who you mentioned earlier,
I'm talking about Quran. Quran.
Yes, but the Quran, people,
yes, from God.
People who call themselves.
God doesn't make mistakes. Forget people. We're talking about the word of God, according to the Bro Hajji.
Okay, you'll have to have that talk with Bro. But
okay, speak to me, Bro Hajji. What verse are you referring to that Allah Subhanahu wa Taala? We're talking about the Arabian tribes. In the time of the Prophet ﷺ, you said they were Bani
Hadith is as you know, Bro Hajji. Most about the tribes comes from Hadith, not from.
I know.
Quran.
I've got. For your information, I've got Sunnah Tirmidhi here. So it's not that I reject Hadith, but authenticity, and we have to look at the chain and narration.
Yeah, it's probably isnat. Yes, I agree.
Yeah. So what are you?
You're not Quran only. You're not Quran only, are you?
I could refer back to it. I'm not saying you're lying. I'm saying the Arabian tribes, 12 of them, or you said 12. I don't know.
So there's a constitution of Medina.
Yeah,
which
I agree.
Tabari mentions and others mention. And it mentions, I think there's 12 Jewish tribes that are living there. Banu Nadir, these are the big ones that everyone knows.
Okay. I'll have to look at
other ones
the
like Karaite. Okay. And so all I'm saying is we all agree. I don't know about Israel, but I don't know what Israel thinks. But the time of Muhammad, there were the children of Israel.
In the Quran, Muhammad usually calls them the Jews, like using the colloquial standard.
No, you uses both. It's Bani Israel and Al Yahud. It's both.
Well, he talks about Bani Israel when he references like the
so
Torah.
when we talk, okay. So let's break this down. So Prophet Ali says, when he migrated to Medina, he met the Yahud. There were converts that converted to Islam. Abdullah bin Salam. You had Ka'b ibn Ahbar, and many of we call them the Israeliyat. You know about that, Joseph. Israeliyat. So when you say that the Bani Israel were in Medina or Yathrib or in the Arabian Peninsula, I'm trying to understand how can you confirm, like Israel said, that they were from Bani Israel. They could be converts, right? How do you know? How can you prove that?
So can I ask you a question, bro Hajji? Yeah. From an Islamic perspective, would the Quran refer to a convert as Bani Israel, Ibn Israel?
Bani Israel, from the tribes of Israel.
Yeah. Would a convert to Judaism? Would a convert to Judaism be considered? So Ruth in the Bible, would she be considered?
I don't know about Ruth. I'll be honest. When we talk about Bani Israel, if you talk about the Quran and the language employed by the Quran, Bani Israel, the children of Israel, are the sons of Yaqub alayhi salam. Right?
No. Because when it talks about Musa, Musa's father wasn't Yaqub.
No, Musa alayhi salam was before.
No, it's after.
Oh, I remember Ibrahim's before. Sorry, forgive me.
No, it's okay.
No, sorry, I'm getting my prophets. A lot of prophets. Remember, so
there's a lot of prophets in Islam.
yeah. Obviously, the Bani Israel prophets we all accept. Obviously, you don't accept Isa alayhi salam. We do. But what I'm saying is, a convert, would that be called Bani Israel?
Lakum dinakum waliyadin.
We say the same thing. But overall, I think where we're losing track is that Bani Israel. I think the whole issue when you use that verse is that this deed poll, as Israel mentioned, is ila abad, is forever. Like Bani Israel can take that land. That's where the issue is, Joseph. I think.
So I'm
not denying Bani Israel were given the covenant at that time.
1 second. Because this is a three-way debate, I do have to push back on bro a little bit, because it is an eternal inheritance. The Torah does say that the land is given to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob and their descendants as an eternal inheritance. So it is forever. The question is, what does that mean? First of all, who can call themselves a descendant of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob? And second of all, what does it mean that this land is yours? What if someone else is living there and you were gone for 2,000 years because you were a sinner? Can you just come and take that land and pretend that they're Canaanites and Amalekites, even though they're completely different people, and even though you're completely different people? Like, at the end of the day, we're dealing with entirely different set of circumstances in the modern day, and it's pretty strange for like religious Zionists and secular Zionists to all unite on one thing, which is this land is ours. What does that mean? What does it mean to be a Jew? What does it mean to be an Israelite? What does it mean that this land is yours? You can't, none of that is even definable under these terms.
Israel, to come back on that, Genesis, when we referring to the Torah, doesn't just refer to Judah and Samaria or the Canaan or the Levant. It's stretching to the Euphrates. It's stretching all the way that Abraham. So what we're saying is that according to Joseph's logic, if we go by the scripture, by the Torah itself, that means Bani Israel, I'm not going to say Yehudim, I'm saying Bani Israel, can now venture into, just say, Tikrit, or venture near Baghdad and say, yeah, this God gave me this land, this is the deed poll.
We're stopping at Lahore. We're stopping at Lahore,
That deed poll doesn't go that far.
Right.
We got an extension.
Again, personally, I believe that expansion can happen naturally. If enough people want to be part of Israel and follow the Torah, then all these lands could ultimately, I mean, all the descendants of Abraham live there, and these lands can expand to become lands where people follow the Torah. I just don't believe that there's a double standard of justice for, Jew or non-Jew. I think the whole term Jew it doesn't have any really much meaning to it. I mean, yes, there's a historical aspect that has been preserved, but really we're dealing with muddled lineage and questionable past and all
Israel.
These things.
Is there a material, a biological, a literal Bnei Israel?
I don't think anymore. No.
So you don't think the Kohanim, you don't think the Levim, you reject them all?
Yeah, I find it highly questionable that I should just believe someone because they said that, like, you know, people can change their identity. If I moved to a different Jewish community back in the day before, you know, there was technology. One second, let me explain a scenario to you. Tell me that this is impossible. I go to a new Jewish community and no one knows who I am, and I want to get the first aliyah, the Torah, and I want to get all the honors and say the blessing. I say, I'm a Cohen. What are people going to do? No one knows, right? The point is these things are easily falsifiable, and so you have to actually know these things for a fact. Only God can confirm these things for a fact. But even in the Torah allows for sojourners to integrate as part of the Israelites, which means that the bloodline is not even the final goal.
But that's not to do with the inheritance. It's not to do with the portion.
Well,
of the land.
Their daughters would definitely become part of the tribe that they married into, and eventually
they would be. They join it if they yeah, exactly.
Eventually, they would be integrated into the people.
This is why I find people like I find your position so difficult to get my head around, because for 2,000 years now, there's been a community with an unbroken chain claiming to be Bnei Israel. So we just went through the Bavli. So you have two Bavli, you have two Talmuds, you have the Yerushalmi and you have the Babylonian, the Jerusalem and the Babylon. And in both of those communities, you had hundreds of thousands of Jews living. So this is after Rome conquered Jerusalem. You have hundreds of thousands of Jews in the north of Israel. You have hundreds of thousands of Jews in Iraq. The Iraqi community was preserved up until basically like 1980s. There's nothing left of it now, but there was a community of unbroken Jews living in Babylon, in Iraq, in Iran. The Jews of northern Israel, they also migrated out the land eventually, going to North Africa, going into Spain. We have 2,000 years of unbroken Jewish communities with ancient Jewish graveyards, with ancient Jewish artifacts, with books that are written, with an unbroken chain. For you to say that you don't know that the Jewish or that anyone really descends from Jacob now is if you're a religious Jew, a crazy thing to say, because it doesn't mean
what you're describing doesn't mean that there is a direct father to son lineage from Abraham, Isaac, Jacob down through the 12 tribes to you. That's not what it means. What it means is there are these large Jewish communities. They have converts coming in and out, even from the time of the Talmud, even in the time of the Bible. There's converts, like Caleb is called a Kenizzite, things like that. I mean, we have or you said
Shimon marries a Canaanite woman, a Canaanite woman.
Yeah, well, yeah, exactly. Yeah. But that's the tribes, But again, even if you move later on into once Israel is integrated.
I'm saying for our history,
but I'm just saying you don't have a lineage. Just because you have a community and a tradition doesn't mean you have a lineage. This is a lineage conversation.
You're a Bible
you yourself don't even know which tribe you're from.
Mm-hmm. But Joe, let me add something, just because we make it three-way, right? So you're talking about 2,000 years, right? So even amongst us, and I'm just trying to sort of understand from a Jewish lens and understand it from the Islamic lens as well. We have many claimants to claim that they're from the lineage of the Prophet Muhammad. So what I'm saying is Al-Ashraf and Sayyid. Now what I'm saying is there's many. I'm not saying it's like the Kohens and the Levites and whatever. Just because you claim it doesn't mean that you are. I agree with Joseph. We have the same thing within Islam. People claim, but
the reason Israel's in trouble is that I believe he believes that the children of Israel are inhabiting the land until the exile, until Galut Edom, until the Roman exile. There were Jews living in the land. We have prophets. We have just clearly the children of Israel are there. And then those communities, we know where they go. We can follow them. We can follow the archaeological record. And so if you were a secular Jew, you could say, well, the Jews that were living in the land at the time, just before the Roman exile, they were all converts. They weren't really Jews. But to say today that the Jews of Iraq that live there unbroken, the Jews of Iran, the Jews of Syria, the Jews of Al-Ad al-Muqaddasa, the Holy Land,
but this is not a claim of bloodline. This is a claim. Like, I agree that the term Israelite is beyond bloodline. Rabbinic Judaism agrees with that, right? Israelites have always been integrated as part of the people in one way or another. My only point is that once we're beyond bloodline, once we're beyond tribal identity, what binds us together as a people? The only answer is Torah observance. That's the only answer that you can even identify who is considered to be.
It's more than Torah observance, Israel, because your interpretation of the Torah is different to the next man's. You need something that unifies you, which is the court. And this is a massive tangent. But your problem is the Torah says that you put the rebellious son to death. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Your problem there's
Why is that a
in
problem?
the Torah, because that's a very subjective term. You certain things that you have to do on certain days, and the entire community needs to do it together. So the entire community needs to be agreed on the calendar. The entire community needs to be agreed on what a rebellious son is.
Okay, so if anything, yeah, that requires courts. That's why the Torah says to bring the rebellious son to a court. And we can have righteous courts. Courts are subject to corruption. I don't think the rabbis of the Talmud are an example of a righteous court, especially because it's a non-existent court, but also because the rulings that they create are not in alignment with the text or logic or reality.
I mean, can I ask you a question going to the Talmud now? Do you believe, and again, the Hadith has a chain of narrators, we look at the Rawi and stuff. Now, I could present you statements in the Talmud, right? Is it a one-size-fits-all? So if Rabbi Akiva or Rabbi Israel...
No, not
do you accept everything they say?
No, absolutely not. It's not that we don't accept it, we don't follow it. So, yeah, so the Talmud is a conversation which takes place between rabbis over centuries and centuries and centuries. Yeah. Well, and it contains in it the law. And there's law which I cannot deviate from as an Orthodox, as a religious
613 commandments.
Well, 613 commandments are in the Torah. That's in the written text. Sorry. But there's, for instance, there could be a man-made law that I can't deviate from. I'll give you a crazy one. What's the crazy one? You can't clap on Shabbat, on the Sabbath. Why? Because you might play an instrument. And if you play an instrument, it may break and then you may repair it. This is all man-made laws to protect basically the laws that are introduced by the rabbis are for one of two reasons. You have something called a gezerah and a takana. A gezerah is a decree, is a law which is introduced to protect. It's more than a fatwa. It's
you forgot about the loophole around the three made-up laws, which is that if you clap like this with a different...
Oh, the rabbinical loophole.
It's a loophole around they made up three laws and then created a loophole.
Joseph, come on, there is a lot of rabbinical loopholes, aren't there? There is a lot, right?
So absolutely, bro. We're a nation of lawyers.
The nation of lawyers.
No, so what I was going to say is that we believe that the laws you can't add to the Torah. The written text is the foundation, it's the constitution of the Jewish people. Israel's right, that is what the Jewish people should follow. Like, we will disagree on how that comes about and how that evolves. I think it's a gradual process to Torah observance. But we will agree that's the constitution, that's the foundational law. Where me and Israel will depart is I believe that the Supreme Court that used to sit in Jerusalem and Har HaBayit, where Masjid al-Aqsa is, they have the authority to institute decrees to protect the Torah observance.
Can they oppose the Torah for the greater good? Can they oppose the Torah for the greater good?
No, the Torah's you can't change it.
The primary source.
You can't make bacon.
The Supreme Court doesn't exist.
This
it doesn't exist. The Supreme Court doesn't exist. Where is the court?
Today it doesn't. So that's what I was trying to get to.
So we're trusting
the Talmud,
the rabbis. Well, what is the Talmud? When you open the Talmud, does it say this is the Supreme Court ruling, or does it say this rabbi says this rabbi says that, this rabbi says that? So first of all, these somehow subjective debates between individual rabbis is a authentic preservation of the high court rulings, and I'm supposed to believe that?
So not every comment from the rabbi is a preservation of the high court ruling. Absolutely not. So
also, how do we know that the rabbis preserved the high court rulings accurately, especially when they had a vested interest in supporting their own authority? Okay,
so I'm just giving the standard Orthodox Jewish position, which you obviously reject, and I don't want to do the whole Karaite Talmud thing because we'll be here for hours and we've already done 2 hours. But I believe that there was a Supreme Court. I think you believe there was a court. Do you believe there was a court that sat in Jerusalem?
I think there's historical evidence to prove that.
Yeah.
Is that the
And
70,
they
is
would
it
have-
the elders that was appointed?
Yeah,
Is that,
yeah.
But
Plus Moses is 71.
just to be clear, by
So,
the way.
so as an example, Ezra, would you accept that Ezra instituted Gezerot, Takanot? So, for instance, you actually probably reject. You reject that we read. Do you reject his recommendation that we read the Torah on a Saturday afternoon and a Monday and a Tuesday?
Is that in the Bible? It's not even in the Bible.
No. So he added it. He made it. Ezra made it.
Who says? It's not in the book of Ezra, is it?
No, I believe it's in the Bible. So I'm saying,
Right.
do you
I'm
reject?
saying it's what the rabbis are saying Ezra did. See how there's a little.
But do you believe that Ezra had a code? Do you believe there was the Anshe Knesset HaGadolah?
No, the Anshe Knesset HaGadolah are not mentioned in the Tanakh even. Ezra instituted a second
So you don't
temple.
believe that you don't believe he had a court?
No, I believe he had a court. I just don't believe it was called the Men of the Great Assembly.
Okay, fine. So, we're splitting hairs. So Ezra had a court.
we're not splitting hairs because the Sanhedrin, the term of the Sanhedrin first of all, is a Greek term which means council, but the 71 elders.
Can we just before you go? We both believe that Ezra had a court, yeah.
Sure.
And most of the things that court ruled on, well, to my knowledge, everything that court ruled on isn't in the Tanakh, yeah.
Yeah.
So it's either one of two options: either it's preserved in the Talmud, or it's forgotten.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And so I imagine you believe it's been forgotten because you reject the Bavli.
Yeah.
I have.
I don't think it's accurately preserved.
Okay, I have 2,000 years of history that says it was preserved in the Talmud, in the Gemara, in the Mishnah. You have a feeling that it's been lost based on your gut.
No, I mean, first of all, you cannot even look at the Talmud and walk away thinking, oh, this is just a simple list of court rulings. This is, again, a bunch of individual conversations and debates between rabbis that lived hundreds of years after the temple was destroyed.
And shall I add something, Joseph? After reading the Talmud, I do believe these rabbis had a power trip. It's like if you read some of the stuff in there, honestly, it's shocking. Like, about the virgin and put the barrel of wine and if you
be careful though, bro Hajji, because the Talmud quotes the Bavli.
The Talmud quotes
the Quran quotes the Bavli.
In what verse does it quote the Bavli?
That God took the mountain over their head.
Yeah.
It says that. That's from the Talmud. It's not in the Torah. Yeah. Yeah, there's a couple of things. There's a couple of things.
We'll make ourselves some Talmudic Muslims. They'll be doing Talmudic rituals.
I'm using the term for, like the charity said, Talmudic loopholes there, that using rabbinical Talmudic loopholes. So going for, I'm gonna bring this to a close now. I know it's been a 2 hour and a bit, and I know it's late in where you are. So once again, I appreciate. I don't want to. I'm trying to be politically correct. I don't want to, but
no, I respect
I'm trying to make it professional. But so ultimately, thank you for joining, Israel, Joseph. I appreciate the input. It's educational for me, and ultimately, like I said at the start of the discussion, keep it professional, respectable. Disagree vehemently, but maintain decorum. And I think all of us, maintain that. So I appreciate that. Any closing statements, Joseph, you want to make before we wrap this up?
No, I'm quite happy. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala guide the two of you to the straight path, inshallah.
You as well. And I'll just conclude with one statement about the Sanhedrin, which, Joseph, I recommend you look into. The concept of the Sanhedrin of the 71 elders ruling by majority is not a Torah concept. The only time the Torah mentions the 70 elders along with Moses is in Numbers 11, and that's a story about Moses feeling the weight of the people. The spirit was too heavy on him, and God called 70 elders to bear spirit of the people. So it is a spiritual issue. It's not even a matter of judging. The court system is mentioned later in Deuteronomy 16:17, which talks about having local courts in every city and then having a high court in the place that God chooses. Again, key word, it's got to be in the place that God chooses. And there it's referring to the Levitical priests and the judge, singular, actually. So there's no evidence that the 70 elders was transferred into a court system from the Torah. So, again, I think we do need to return back to the Torah. All Jews need to, all Israelites, all Muslims, even because Muslims believe in the Torah. I think we'd have a lot more unity if we started from the beginning, which is the beginning of our faith. It begins in Genesis 1:1. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth.
Bro,
I
we're
would
not meant
say we need to
evangelize.
return
Leave
to
that
the
to the
final
Duat.
revelation, which was revealed to the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and I'll obviously let Joseph
أشهد
end
أن
off.
لا إله إلا الله وأشهد أن
But even
موسى
before you
رسول
get to the
الله.
end, you have to start from the beginning, right? So read the whole thing.
I think we've agreed that the Beni Israel were in a state of corruption, and they changed the rabbis started taking themselves as lords, and we will have a different discussion. I'm sure we'll catch up again. But
Allahu
anyway,
Alam, but we're in the land. Alhamdulillah.
No.
Alhamdulillah.
Remember,
you
just
try
because
to get the last word in, you, Joseph.
just because you're in the land, just because you're in the land doesn't mean you're redeemed. To get to a state of blessing, you can read about the Torah. Peace in the land, long life, health, wealth, and
peace in the land.
Connection to
you
God.
don't qualify for that, Joseph. I'm sorry.
Connection to God. So
you don't qualify for that.
I think let's just say the people of Israel have a lot of work to do, and the rest of the world does too.
Let's work on ourselves, Israel.
Yeah,
that's it. We'll end up on that. Inshallah ta'ala. Okay, thank you everyone who joined in. Joseph, Israel, until next time, take care, and we'll hopefully see you guys soon. Take care.
Thank you, bro.
Take care, everyone.
Nice to meet you, Joseph.
Bye. Take care.
Likewise.